here with us today due to some personal emergency, but hope things fall right for him. On behalf of the entire NIDM team, which is Dr. Anil Gupta, who's been very instrumental in helping us reach out to the best of the best in the country. Major General Bindal, ED of NIDM. He's been the leader from NIDM side and been very, very supportive. And this is our third OTP, the third online training program. We started on the 15th of May with a webinar. We had 8 webinars on industrial safety on different themes and different areas touching upon industrial safety. 8 webinars. Those webinars were jointly organized by NDMA, NIDM, of course, FICCI CIDM Board, GIDM of Gujarat, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, Bangkok, and most importantly, the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister has been a key partner in organizing all of these webinars and these OTPs, the online training programs. So in the webinar, we had almost 6,000 participants over 8 webinars who attended, and we had international experts also coming in. And this all started after the LG Chem gas leak. When in Vizag, the LG Chem accident happened, the NDMA came into action, and they reached out to us, and we reached out to them, in fact, to come together and sensitize industries further towards industrial safety. So third OTP, second day, the theme remains the same: industrial chemical safety law, policy and planning framework, jointly organized by National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs, and FICCI. Today, we will start day 2 with the presentation lecture from Dr. R.K. Ilangovan, who is the Director General, DG Fastly, Government of India. That would be followed by a presentation by Dr. Manish Mudgal, Principal Scientist, CSIR, AMPRI, Bhopal. Then Dr. T.L. Thanulingam, Deputy Chief Controller of Explosives, PISO. And final presentation from Dr. Ashish Mittal, CEO, Occupational Safety and Health Management Consultancy Service. He would be talking on occupational health regulations. For all the participants, for their benefit, I must remind you again that after the 4 presentations, we would take up questions, which could be either to the to one of the expert resource persons, or in general to any of the experts. We encourage all participants to ask questions so that if there's anything we could help them understand the concept better. We'd love to do that. In fact, even if we can't take questions, we usually note those questions down and write it to the experts for their feedback and reply and response on those questions. So I was just buying time to cross the 300 mark, and we have done that. So I think that's a good sign. So Dr. Ilangovan, I would like to call upon you first for your presentation, but before I do that, it would be just only fair for me to give a very brief background, although the sort of work you've done in this area of industrial safety cannot be compressed into a brief introduction. But let me take this opportunity to introduce you, Dr. Ilangovan, who's working as Director General in Directorate General Factory Advice Service and Labour Institute, DG Fastly, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India. He received his PhD in Industrial Safety Education Department sector from Alagappa University, Karaikudi, Tamil Nadu. His MTech in Machine Design from IIT Madras, India. And his BE, Bachelor's of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering from College of Engineering, Gundi, Anna University. He is member of many doctoral committees of the Academic Research Program for the Award of Doctor of Philosophy in the field of occupational safety and health. He has been selected and included as an industrial safety expert in 2010 edition of Marcus Who's Who in the World, distinguishing him as one of the world's foremost achievers in the field. Many congratulations, sir. He is an expert faculty in the field of OSH for various renowned institutions and universities, and has been a chairman, member secretary of various committees on OSH formed by the central and state governments. Presently looking after the Factory Advice Service division of DG Fastly, dealing with regulatory aspects of the Factories Act 1948 and the functioning as the chairman of the Academic Council of Associate Fellowship in Industrial Health course, which is conducted by DG Fastly. He is actively involved in OSH activities for more than 25 long years and published many thematic and research papers at national and international conferences in the field of this very industrial safety. On that note, Dr. Langovan, I'll hand over to you for your lead lecture, your lecture on Factories Act and related regulations. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Langovan. You will have to unmute your mic, sir, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for a very detailed introduction. And I take this opportunity to thank FICCI NADM for inviting me. In fact, you are specific that I should come and share my thoughts. Therefore, I thought I would make a presentation. I also welcome my co-speakers, Dr. T.L. Tanulingam and Dr. Manish Utgal and Ashish Mittal. I think now it is 11:12. As decided, I'll take 25 to 30 minutes. And let me see.
Yes, please, sir. Please feel free. Thank you.
If the screen is visible, Mr. Sood, if the screen is visible, shall I continue?
Yes, sir. It is. Yes, it is. It is visible and clear.
Thank you. So, first again, wish you all a very good morning, and once again, thanks the organizers for inviting me to share my thoughts on the Factories Act 1948 and other relevant regulations. My presentation may be very short time. It's very difficult to cover the complete legislation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the overview of the Factories Act, and then I will take you to the Occupational Safety and Health Working Conditions for 2020 and how things have moved in within this next 20 to 25 minutes of my presentation. See, if you look as far as the Factories Act is concerned, it is many of you might be knowing it came way back in 1881 when the first Factories Act was started. The present Factories Act is the sixth act, and it was promulgated in the year 1948. And from there on, there was a major amendment in the year 1987 after the Bhopal gas disaster. So if you look into the journey of the Factories Act's evolution, you will find 1881, the first act was introduced by the then British government. Then after independence, the 1948 is the sixth act. And 1987 is an important period where the act underwent a lot of changes, basically incorporating the lessons that we have learned from the Bhopal gas disaster. It started in December 2 to 3, intervening night of 1984. So coming to the Factories Act, the basic process is, we call a factory as the one which is having 10 or more workers in a manufacturing process by utilizing the power. It's the basic underlying meaning is if there is a manufacturing process, and again, we have defined the manufacturing process as a process by which you are increasing the quality, quantity, value, saleability of a product. And once the manufacturing process is there, that is from raw material to finished goods, there is some kind of value addition. Then if we are having 10 or more employees, workers, in this manufacturing process. And then we have to do this activity in the fixed premises, then we call it as a factory. Of course, there are two categories. One is with power and without power. With power is the one, the power is something like use any power other than the muscle power of the human being. The point here is your electrical power, mechanical, tidal, or a wind, or a thermal energy, whatever power you use, that will be a power as far as the act is concerned. And we also have a different second classification, 2M2, that is a factory employing 20 or more workers in a manufacturing process by not utilizing power in a fixed premises. Here, the underlying phenomena is the premises is an important issue because once you define the premises, the precincts thereof, that is the place where the boundary of the legislation is being applied. The entire Factories Act is applied to the premises as licensed, as approved by plan approval. And nothing in this act is applicable to any premises outside the area which is notified as a factory, as a building. And this act, basically in the 1987 amendment, the important development was that the hazardous process introduction. The Factories Act normally considers three type of industry. One is dangerous operation. The operations are dangerous. The operations are may likely cause safety or health concern to the employee, which requires some specific measures. In the meaning of this dangerous operation is the one particular operation is called dangerous. That's the important issue. Then comes the higher level hazardous process. You can go to the first schedule of the Factories Act. We that has been given as list of industries involving hazardous processes. It contains about 29 industries, and these industries are considered to be hazardous because there are two criteria by which the hazardous process has been categorized. One is the material, raw material, finished product, byproduct, or the output or your drain, whatever it is, used in the factory can cause material impairment to the health of the workers or the any persons thereof. So one first criteria is the chemicals used in the factory should not cause health impairment to the connected person, or it should not pollute general environment. The industry is such that it can pollute the general environment, and that is the basic reason why it is categorized as a hazardous process. I'm not going into other detail. My presentation will be more focused on safety related provisions and the overall the content of the law. And if you have any doubts, we can discuss during the question and answer session. And as I told you, the worker is a person, directly or indirectly employed. And this entire Factories Act do not use the term contract labor or outsource employee. The very important issue. Of course, they don't distinguish, even though they call it as a worker. Important point is there is no distinguishment between a worker, temporary worker, permanent worker, contract employee, or outsource employee. As far as the safety and health are concerned, all of them are treated on par throughout the entire legislation. And the people who are working in the manufacturing process, directly or indirectly, they're called as a worker. As I told you, factory definition, I have already told you, this comes under section, sorry, 1 second. It comes under, 2M1, 2M2 category. One is 10 or more workers with power. And you say even one day, very important point is in the preceding 12 months, even if you are working for one day with 10 workers with power or 20 workers without power, even in a single day in the preceding 12 months, then that proof of employment can be considered to be a factor for the next 12 months from the date on which it was employing such workers. And again, the 1987 amendment brought the major issue that the definition of an occupier before 1987, the occupiers were by and large nominated occupier. The management to the board nominates an occupier, and who will function and discharge the duties of the occupier as under the Factories Act. But after the 1987 amendment, it has been clearly specified there must be a partner, you must be a proprietor, or if it is a limited company, one of the director. And if it is a government-owned company, then it is anybody nominated by the government, state or central government or local authority. The ultimate idea is safety and health, as all of us know, safety and health cannot be talked at a bottom level. We need leadership commitment, top management commitment, and that is the basic point where the occupiers are declared from the partners, the proprietor, or the directors of the board. And we come to the definition called manufacturing process. This is again an important activity. As I told you, making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, finishing. All these things are done with a view to use, sale, transport, delivery, or disposal. Very important. If you are doing this thing for self-consumption, then it won't be a factory. So we do the manufacturing process to sale, transport, delivery, or dispose. And there are also other sectors like you see pumping of liquid, gaseous substance, the two-phase substance, power generation, your composing, all those things, ship repairing, ship recycling, and cold storage, storing articles in cold storage. They are also called as a manufacturing process, even though by the definition they may not be a big value addition, but still they are brought under the definition of the manufacturing process. No, then comes, see, whenever the point here is under section 7, the notice by the occupier. Normally, the occupier, before starting a factory, before starting the manufacturing process or trial run, before occupying the premises, he should give a notice within 15 days before occupying the premises. And of course, then manager appointment should be given within 7 days before he is appointed. So, in the Factories Act, there are two persons who are made responsible. One is the occupier, the other is the manager. And apart from these two, except few classes are there like guardian of a child for permitting double employment, or section 96A, we talk about whoever has committed offense, or you talk about the certain classes where the workers are also can be punished for violating safety health requirement. Barring these exceptions, the entire legislative framework talks about the responsibility of the occupier and manager. They are made liable and they are responsible, legally liable for any violations or deviation, and they can be subjected to imprisonment or fine as under section 92, 94, 96 of the Factories Act. And again, this 87 amendment brought the general duties of the occupier. In fact, this is an insertion that happened after 97 amendment. Again, here is providing safety, health, and environment in a factory is the responsibility, duty of the occupier. It cannot be delegated, it cannot be diluted. That's the whole purpose of the law. Apart from that, keeping the plant and system safe, free from risk, arrangement for handling, storage, import of substances, maintaining and operating the places safe access. Then you also try to create safe working environment, provide supervision, training. Everything is the duty of the occupier. And also preparing safety policy is also the duty of an occupier. Then comes section 7B, general duties of the manufacturer. In fact, the 7A and 7B by and large cannot be prosecuted because this is the duty which is related to the provisions under the Factories Act. The manufacturer duty, the law doesn't provide for any penalty. Factories Act do not have any section to penalize the manufacturer or supplier or importer of articles and goods. This is basically the point here is whenever a person is importing a substance or article which is to be used in a factory, or he is getting materials or the substances or the equipment, it is his duty to see that this equipment is free from hazard, risk, and it is safe to be used in a factory. That's the basic purpose. And they should also conform to national standards. And if there are international standards much better than our national standard, then they should conform to the standard. All the hazards and risks associated with the such products, substances, or the equipment should be specifically detailed and provided so that the end user is aware of the requirements. In fact, I'm going to talk only on chapter 3 and chapter 4, which is relevant purely in terms of safety and health, occupational safety and health. And the very important point is cleanliness. This is again a mandatory requirement. Many of you might be going these are even surprised. That is so detailed that keeping clean workplace and cleaning it, having the proper drainage, and then dirt and refuse are removed daily, and washing of floors done once in every week, and color washing, whitewashing once in 14 months, toilets once in 4 months, painting once in 5 years. All those details are very much given under the Act of Cleanliness. And we have section 12 of the factors that disposal of waste and effluent. You must be surprised to if I mention that before the promulgation of the Environment Protection Act 1986, the Factories Act dealt with the disposal of waste and effluents inside the factory premises. So, effective arrangement for their treatment and disposal is also part of the Factories Act. And we have ventilation and temperature. We need to have the very good ventilation. The air change should be 6 times the cubic capacity of a workroom, and the temperature should not be less than 30 degree bed bulb temperature. And then we need to have velocity, air velocity of 60 meter per minute. Almost it's 0.5 meter per second. This is the speed of the air inside the work premises. And always the worker should feel comfortable to work in a factory when it is of high temperature. And coming to section 14, dust and fume. This is related to health. It is related to safety also. So wherever you generate dust or fume, and effective measures should be implemented in the plant to collect the dust, collect the fume, dispose it off from the workplace. We should avoid inhalation by removing such dust from the source of generation of fuel and preventing its accumulation by having a closure. This is an important issue wherein we talk about the dust and fuel requirement. And we also have exhaust arrangement for the IC engine so that the carbon monoxide doesn't spread in the work atmosphere. We have overcrowding. It's another important issue. It's a safety feature as it is overcrowding. We always say there should be a minimum space of 14.2 cubic meter to the level of 4.2 height from the floor level. Breathing space should be given to employees, excluding the space occupied by the machines and so on. If you don't do it, it becomes overcrowded. And lighting should be free from their sharp shadows, and then it should be conforming to national standard. And section 18 talks about drinking water, very important issue. The drinking water should be provided potable, and you should be having a clear-cut dispensing station for the drinking water, and all the drinking water facilities should be clearly displayed code, and it should be 6 meters away from a toilet and urinals minimum. And if you're having 250 or more employees, then you must give cold water during summer. That provides for electrics and urinals separate for men and women, maintained in hygienic condition, easily accessible, separate for male and female, highly ventilated, and with a full flow of water, thoroughly washed and cleaned every week. And there are also different categories like 250 and above. You need to have the glazed tiles of smooth surface up to 90 centimeters from the floor. Then comes your chapter 4, where we talk about safety. Your machine guarding is coming under section 21, machine guarding, isolation. And nobody except the trained adult worker should work on any machinery which is in motion. And the Act provides for dangerous machines which should be only utilized or operated by people who have good supervision and who have got sufficient training. And we have hoist and lift, where wherever you use an hoist and lift, that should be tested by the competent person once in 6 months. And we have lifting machine tackles, which should be tested by the competent person, approved by the chief inspector once in 12 months. In all the pressure plants, particularly the pressure plant safety is given under Section 31. The exact requirement, the pressure vessels, these are the closed containers wherein if gas or solid, liquid or two-phase substance is stored at a pressure higher than the atmospheric pressure, then we call them as a pressure plant. And these pressure plants do not include boilers or vessels having heating surface. It provides for external testing, internal testing, hydrostatic testing to ensure mechanical integrity of the equipment. When it comes to Section 32, we talk about safe access throughout the factory, any flow up and down, to a safe access within the complete compound, and then you have to have barriers or the fencing, the elevated floor edges. Then you need to put toe board and you need to have illuminating signals, so that people understand that there are edges. So all these things, and you are working at height, use of your fall protection and fall restriction systems, all mandatory as under Section 32 of the Factories Act. That also says when we talk manually handling material, then there should be a maximum limit is prescribed 50 kg for adult male and 35 for adult female. And of course, if the worker is expressing his inability to handle such loads, then the management should consider putting multiple people on the job. Same way, like Section 14, see the 36, the dangerous fume, basically, it's confined space safety is given under Section 36. The permissible exposure limits, TNB values are maintained, provision of PPE, lifeline, supervision, identification, entry and egress safe, all those things are provided under Section 36. And 36A, in fact, if you see the entire factory, the electrical safety is kept outside the factory because there is a specific legislation, the Indian Electricity Act and all that. So this 36A only talks about the use of hand tools or should not be any hand tool, electrical bulb or lights should not be used, which is having more than 24 volt. That means you have to go for either step down transformer or you must go for battery operated systems. And wherever you are operating any electrical equipment, they must be conforming to flame-proof requirements. And complete fire safety is under the factory that, and whatever you talk on fire safety, fire prevention, fire load, fire adequacy, fire control, and then your training once in 2 months or 3 months, mock drill, and then your availability of the extinguishing system, fire extinguisher, everything is part of the Factories Act as under Section 58. And we have safety officers. If we are having 1,000 or more workers, then we need to have safety officers. These are the specific provisions with respect to hazardous process. The site appraisal committee is utilized. We should be clearing a site when they want to go for hazardous factory, both the commissioning or expansion of a factory. Then the compulsory disclosure of information, an on-site emergency plan, drawing a detailed disaster control measures, and informing the safety and health hazard to the local public authorities, mandatory requirement, identification of health hazards that may arise out of chemicals handled is also part of the. And the management should lay down measures for safe handling, usage, transportation, storage of the chemicals inside the factory. And they should also publicize it to the workers and public who live in the near vicinity of the factory. And we have 41C, a specific responsibility of the occupier, which is equivalent to Section 7A. It's a very important thing. But this is purely talking on maintaining health records and medical records of the workers working in the hazardous process. It also provides for appointing supervisors, competent supervisors, having undergone 1 month course conducted within the factory. And it talks about medical examination, both pre and post periodical examination once in 12 months for all the hazardous process. And coming to 41F, it's a situation where we talk about the presence of toxic or chemicals in the work atmosphere of our factory. That we are given a second schedule under the Factories Act, which talks about permissible limits of exposure. It gives two values, time weighted average for 8-hour exposure and short term exposure limit for 15 minutes. the intention of the law is that none of these values should be exceeded, because if you exceed this value, you're likely to cause physical health impairment to the employees, and you must do all measures to see that. Then 41G talks about safety committee, particularly for the hazardous factory, terms and conditions, equal representative for workers, and so on. This 41H section talks about the workers having the right to warn against imminent danger. If he finds the workplace or the equipment or the facility is unsafe, which he expects that the imminent danger to his life and well-being, he can say, I refuse to work, and he should take it to the occupier, and occupier should sort out the issue. If the occupier could not sort out the issue, the matter should be taken up to the inspector, and whose decision is final. The section 85 is a very important provision. We talk about informal sector. By this provision, if our state governments are empowered to notify a factory employing less than 10 workers with power, less than 20 workers without power, also as a factory, irrespective of the number of workers, considering the importance of the hazard, considering the risk that are present in the factory. The fact, as I told you in the initial point of presentation, there are dangerous operations, almost 30 to 34 dangerous operations we have given in the schedule. And there are medical examinations, safety, health requirements given into it. Section 87A is an important section under that, where the inspector can prohibit any process or equipment in a factory for a minimum of 3 days, if we consider it to be hazardous. And that can be further extended by the chief inspector, and the appellate authority is the Honorable High Court. And we have, this is section 88, accidents, particularly if a person unable to work within 48 hours, then the manager of the factory should give the accident report to the regulatory authority. Same way, dangerous occurrence is defined as an explosion or a building collapse or a kind of a fire. Then this should be given by a report under section 888 by the manager to the inspector. And we have against diseases, notifiable diseases, the factors that Schedule 3 gives notifiable diseases. The point here is there are many occupational diseases. The 29 diseases given under the Schedule 3 are notifiable. And if any such notifiable disease is seen or occurring in a factory, the manager should send the report to the authority, and even the public health practitioner who comes across such cases is under the mandate to inform to the regulatory authorities, and failing which there is a penalty given to by the law. And 91 talks about samples. Normally, that if you take sample, then it should be taken into three portions, and all of them should be signed by occupier as well as the management representative or by the inspector, and one copy given for government analyst, and one shall be given to the person, and one for as an evidence. And this law provides for safety and health surveys can be done by DG Factory, DG. We have done many surveys, so like we did for firecrackers manufacturing unit, we did for fertilizer industry, and we did for silicosis industry as per the directions of the Honorable Supreme Court. With this, I will now come to the code. We will take another, I think, maybe another 5 to 10 minutes max. So basically, the code, the Occupational Safety and Other Work Conditions Code, has been passed by the Honorable Parliament, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And this particular code is almost, you can see, the 13 legislations are subsumed under this code. That means the provisions of the 13 legislations are brought under this code. And primarily, the law talks about Factories Act, Mines Act, Dock Workers Safety, Health and Welfare Act, Building and Other Construction Workers Act, and Plantation Labor Act. These are the 5 legislations having original jurisdiction on health and safety, and all of them are given. Apart from that, the other laws are also there, which is available in public domain. You can refer to it if you want to have a further detail. Coming to the occupational safety and health standards, the code provides for national and state occupational safety and health advisory boards, and these boards are there to give a lot of functions, including setting standards, regulations and guidelines, and board will be there at the national level as well as at the state level. And the standards under the code will be set by this board. And setting then as per the government of India's direction, and the recommendations of the boards are purely advisory, recommendatory in nature, and then only the government of India should take the call, accepting it and approving it. And the code clearly talks about institutions to conduct research, experiment, and demonstration related to OSH. And it provides for third-party audit and certification on safety and health. This third-party audit is for the safety and health and certification. And women employment and safety of the women workers in dangerous operations are there in the code. And the code also provides for a national board to inquire into the standards of health and safety. And it talks about unified registration, single registration, and single license, electronic maintenance of records, and compounding of offences is also part of this code. And if you go to the code under Chapter 11, there are specific provisions for the factory, and you can see the Part 7 talks about the factories. The licensing and approval, what is there in Section 6 and 7 of the Factories Act is dealt here. Liability of the owner of premises, again, is the provision existing under that. The premises owner can express its liability, and in certain circumstances, then power to apply the code, it is equal to Section 85(1), irrespective of the number of workers, because the code provides for 20 or more workers as a factory with power and 40 or more workers without power. Again, the factory, the manufacturing places, the employing less than these workers, they can apply the code. This is in line with the Section 85(1). 82 talks about dangerous operations as what we have. Scientific committee again in line with 41B, compulsory disclosure of information 41B. Specific responsibility is with 41C, your medical examination, health register, on-site emergency plan, disaster control measure, and so on. And we talk about national board equivalent to the powers vested with the central government to inquire into situation. Emergency standard, yes, it can be produced in terms of emergency. There's permissible limits of exposure of chemicals equivalent to Section 41 of the Factories Act. Again, right of workers to one again is again under Section 41H. Appeal is again as under the Factories Act. The code also provides for appeal if you are dissatisfied with the order issued by the inspector. You can appeal to the authorities. I think within the time permitted, I hope I have covered both the issue. I brought out the salient features because covering this legislation in such a short time will be very difficult. It may require at least 8 to 10 hours to talk about the entire legislation. I hope I have done justice, and I again once again thank the organizers for inviting. Over to Mr. Rasul. Yeah.
That bit of the simplicity with which I think there's an echo.
Yeah. So,
Hello. Yeah, I think there's some echo. I'm signed in twice. Give me a moment.
yeah.
So Bob logged in with two devices. On two devices.
What should I think I should sign out and I'll come back. That's
No, I think it's okay now. Yes. In fact, there was a fluctuation at my end, so I had to sign back again. But yes, what I was saying, thank you so much, Dr. Elangovan. As I was saying, the simplicity with which you started introducing the very factory, which could be well understood by even by a layman, and then the detailed explanation on Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. I think that was very relevant on the occasion, and I think as we were speaking, we were getting a lot of feedback on your presentation and also questions And those feedback, let me assure you and tell you that these feedbacks are very positive. In fact, they are already asking that if we can have a copy of your
I will
presentation.
give it. I will
Yes,
share
that'll be
it.
wonderful. That'll be wonderful. In fact, what we do as part of this format of this OTP, we encourage all the participants to attend all the 3 days to be eligible for a certificate, an e-certificate which will be issued.
Okay, okay.
And as part of the along with the e-certificate, we also give them a copy of the presentations which the presenters share with us, and we compile them all and we share it with the audience for their future reference. Thank you so much. In fact, I also want to take a moment and share with all the participants and our esteemed speakers and eminent guests. Today, 13th of October 2020, is also the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. So it's an occasion which is, so we sort of coincided this OTP in a way that we could have the second important day on this very day, which is 13th of October. Dr. Ilanguvan, if I can take a moment of yours, and we want a very strong message going out to not only the participants who are with us right now, but also with all the industries in the country, for whom who understand, who want to further understand the importance and relevance of industrial safety. So on this very important day, anything specific, any comment you would like to make to all the industries with regard to industrial safety?
Oh, nothing new. See, the basic thing is, the government of India declared the national policy on safety and health and environment at workplace in the year 2009. There are 2 points which I would like to highlight since you wanted me to give an highlight on this. Number one is that safety and health is the fundamental human right of a person. This is a very important dimension. All of us should keep in mind that it is not only a legal requirement, not only a mandatory requirement for anyone to provide safety and health. Every human being has a right, is a human right for anyone to demand and command for safety and health. And therefore, if we really look at it as a human right perspective, it's a right of an employee to have the best safe and healthy system in the workplace. And then our responsibility will be very high. Number two, again, I take reference to the policy itself, which clearly, the safety and health should be a component of the industrial activity. It is inbuilt in an integral component of operational maintenance activity in a workplace. So we should consider it as an integral part. Of course, all the management systems only talks about it. We must take it as a component of the safety and health, as an integral component, so that you cannot keep it away from your regular activity, day in and day out. Safety is a component right from your entry to from exit from your factory. Third point, which I would like to highlight here is now you see we talk about Vision Zero and so on. Basically, the concept is the society expects the highest forms of safety and health. They expect they have zero tolerance. You cannot, or you can say zero disturbance. They don't want any disturbance by any workplace. And you can see what's happening around the country. The society expects an organization to perform the highest safety and health standards in their workplace. That's also again a part of the policy. Policy clearly says that we should keep on increasing the expectations of the society on safety and health, and the industries also should strive to grow up and meet such standards. It's like a complementary to each other. You increase the demand of the society, and further you also meet the level. That's the match. So the zero disturbance is the expectation of the society, and the organization should talk about zero tolerance. You should have zero tolerance on any deviation, with whatever minor trivial it may be. If we are having zero tolerance, then the zero disturbance or the perfect workplaces or the world class manufacturing places can be expected. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so very pertinent what you said, sir. And I think, because you being the DG Fastly and the man in charge, from the government of India side, when it comes to the Factory Act, when it comes to implementation and further modification of, of, uh, of the act to make industry safe, to make communities safe, as you said, zero disturbance from the community's perspective and zero tolerance from the organization perspective. I think that's a very strong message and a very valid message which is going out today. And I think that is something what we would like to also uh, make sure that it reaches the right people through whatever mediums we can on this very important day of International Day on disaster risk reduction. Thank you so much again, Dr. Langovan. There would be questions, and we will get back to you. We are compiling the questions which people are very curious to ask you, and we will at the end of the session we'll take those questions and we'll take them up. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I must congratulate everyone who's present on this call that we have crossed the 400 mark yet again. And I think it is, again, an overwhelming response from the participants. Goes to show the quality what this OTP is offering to them. Thank you to all the participants for joining us, and thank you, eminent speakers, for making this special. Thank you. Dr. Engineer Manish Mudgal, Principal Scientist, CSIR, AMPRI Bhopal. He would be talking on industrial siting and environmental impact assessment. A very, very senior expert professional from the government dealing with this subject of industrial siting and environmental impact. A very, very critical part, I must say again. And I think that is one of the reasons, sir. You can imagine we have over 400 participants. They are very keen and eager to listen to your inputs from the CSIR perspective and the country's perspective. A brief introduction of Dr. Mudgal is presently working as Senior Principal Scientist and Section Head of Advanced Radiation Shielding and Cement-Free Concrete Group, CSIR, Advanced Materials and Processes Research Institute, Bhopal. He is also holding position of Honorary Professor, Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research at the same institute. He is BE Honors in Civil Engineering from Bhilai Institute of Technology, Durg Masters in Engineering from Indore. Dr. Manish Mudgal did his PhD in Environmental Engineering from Rajiv Gandhi Technological University, Bhopal. He has carried out environmental impact assessments of various industrial projects at CSIR Niri Nagpur and so in CSIR AMPRI Bhopal. Under his leadership, a Center of Advanced Radiation Shielding Materials is being established at Bhopal. Many congratulations on that, sir. I think that's a great move, something what our country requires and needs. On that note, Dr. Mudgal, I will hand it over to you for your very important presentation for the day. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sood. And I'm thankful to NIDM and Vicky for inviting me and giving this particular chance to give my talk in front of all delegates and officials. And I respectfully thank all other speakers also, Dr. Thanglumang, I am just seeing his name, and the previous speaker. And I am thankful to Dr. Anil K. Gupta from NIDM, because with him I worked in Niri long back, and I am thankful to all the officials for giving this particular chance. I'll share my presentation. I'll give me only a few seconds. Yes. Is it visible, sir?
Yes, it is, Dr. Mudgal. It is, yes.
Yeah. Thanks. I am giving this small talk on industrial siting and environmental impact assessment. As briefly given my introduction by sir, that I am senior principal scientist and sectional head of Advanced Radiation Shielding and Cement-Free Concrete Group. I'll give a small introduction in that of our CSIR EMPRI. Previously, previously up to 2007, our institute name was CSIR Regional Research Laboratory, and after that, the mandate of the laboratory changed to Advanced Materials and Processes Research Institute, and because of that, we have shifted to some waste to material development. But previous to that, I was engaged in environmental impact assessment. I have started my career from Niri, Nagpur in 1993. From 1993 to 1995, I was in EIRA division, Environmental Impact and Risk Assessment Division of Niri, Nagpur. And after that, I came to RL Bhopal, and in both the institute, in total, I was involved in around 73 environmental impact assessment projects. With this experience in the environmental impact assessment for different sectors, mining sector, industrial sector, petrochemical sector, we have done a lot of all over the India. We have visited and we got exposure of different industries. I'll start with the importance of site selection, because industrial siting is a very important aspect in while coming up with a new establishment of any industry. So land is an important resource. Legal requirement is that we should have environmental impact assessment, environmental clearance and consent from the statutory bodies. And industry is associated with other activities just as land use, negative impacts from the industries, and sustainability aspects just like lesser cost, faster implementation, healthier living environment. Friends, industrial siting, the guidelines issued by Ministry of Environment Forest, the guidelines shows that the industrial development significantly contributes towards economic growth, industrial progress being along with the host of environmental problems. Every industry has some environmental problems, and with many problems, injudicious siting of the industry can seriously affect the environmental features, and such as such preventive steps are needed to at any time of our siting rather than going into far curative measures at a later stage. So, in industrial policy statement given in July 1980, recognized the need for preserving ecological balance and improving living condition in the urban centers of the country. At present, industries are being located on basis of raw material. Basically, you all know that you are from the some delegates are from the industry also. So wherever the raw material is available, we want to establish our industry that location only, and access to the market. Means market should be very nearer to that. Then transport facility should be available there, and such other techno-economic consideration without attention to environmental consideration are recognized as an important criteria for setting of the industry. But to prevent air, water, soil pollution arising out of the industrial projects, the industry procedure required the entrepreneurs before setting up the industry obtain clearance from central/state environment pollution control boards. So central or state pollution control boards stipulates the air, water, and other norms, industrial norms, and adhere to the certain quality standards. However, these stipulation do not prevent the industry from affecting the total environment by wrong siting. So actually, in respect of certain industrial development project, it is not only necessary to install suitable pollution control equipments, but also to identify appropriate sites for their location. I'll come to the main points. According to these problems, for select group of industries, the state director of industries confirms that the site of project has been approved from environmental angle by competent state authority. So how they will give the this approval for environmental approval? There is a procedural involved in it. Depending on the nature and location of the project, the entrepreneur will be required to submit a comprehensive environmental impact assessment report and environmental management plan. And these are the general guidelines. Then environmental guidelines for the industry is in siting or industry, care should be taken to minimize the adverse effect and industries on the immediate neighborhood as well as distance places. The areas to be avoided, friends, the areas which are to be avoided is ecologically or otherwise sensitive areas at least 25 kilometers away from that, and depending upon the geoclimatic condition, the requisite distance have to be increased by appropriate agency. Coastal area agar hai, so then at least half a kilometer from high tide line, one establishment should be planned. Then flood plain of the riverine system, at least half kilometer from flood plain or modified flood plain. And transport communication system is there. If it is there, then at least half kilometer from highway or railway. Major settlement is also one of the criteria. If 3 lakh population, distance from settlement is difficult to maintain because of urbanization. At the time of siting of the industry, if any major settlement notified limit is within 50 kilometers, the spatial direction of growth of settlement for at least a decade must be assessed, and industry shall be sited at least 25 kilometers from the projected growth boundary of the settlement. Siting, what are the siting criteria of that industry? Siting criteria is that no forest land should be covered into non-forest activity as per the Forest Conservation Act 1980. No prime agricultural land should be converted into industrial site. Within the acquired site, the industry must locate itself at the location of remain obscured from the general sites. Land acquired shall be sufficiently large to provide space for appropriate treatment of wastewater treatment and other environmental problems. The green belt should, between 2 adjoining large-scale industries shall be 1 kilometer. Enough space should be provided for storage of solid waste so that it could be available for possible reuse. And last 3 points are there. Layout of the form of industry that may come into area conform to the landscape of area without affecting the features of the place. Associated township of the industry must be created at the space having physiographically barrier between the industry and township, and each industry is required to maintain 3 ambient air quality measuring station within 120-degree angle between stations. So these are the, I have narrated all the points about the siting criteria, what are the guidelines given by MOEF. Now, my friends, I'll tell you what is the importance of environment. The environment is physical surrounding of the organism, including all the conditions and circumstances that affects its development. Friends, how we want to see our world? We want to see our world very neat, clean and green. Clean, green and cool. We don't want to see hot and polluted environment. You can see in this particular picture, one side it is a green, one side it's a hot and polluted. Now I'll give an example of world's biggest industrial disaster which has happened in the city of Bhopal. I am also sitting in Bhopal only. So this is the picture of 1st December 1984. You can see the how Bhopal was the clean and green and cool in nature, and on this midnight of 2nd and 3rd December 1984, the Bhopal gas tragedy happened, the night of death. Chemical missile isocyanate came out from the Union Carbide India Limited, UCIL, a pesticide factory, and that was a very havoc in the history of environment. Bhopal gas tragedy is known as world's worst industrial disaster. These are the live photographs of that particular industry. In this particular tragedy, the Bhopal gas tragedy 1984 affected around 5 lakhs people officially. After this particular incidence of, you can say in, I have given the date 2nd and 3rd December 1984. Friends, the Environmental Protection Act 1986 came after this particular Bhopal gas tragedy. This is the incidents who gave this gave this problem to the government of India to come out with the Environmental Protection Act 1986. Different acts were already there or after that implemented, just like Water and Prevention Act 1988, Water Prevention and Control Pollution Cess Act 1977, which was amended in 1991. Previous to that, Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1981 as amended in 1987. Air Prevention, Control and Pollution Rule 1983. These are the acts, rule or acts made before 1986, but Environmental Protection Act came in 1986. After that, Hazardous Waste Management Handling Rule came in 1989. Manufacturing, Storage and Import of Hazardous Chemical Rule 1989. Then other environmental rules came. Then Environment Siting for Industrial Project Rule came in 1999. Friends, that I'll give the definition of this environmental impact assessment. It is an anticipatory mechanism or decision-making tool in establishing quantitative values to the parameters which represent the environmental quality before, during, and after the proposed development activity, thus enabling us adoption of mitigation procedure for economic efficacy and sustainability. It is one of the important tools for selection of proper technology. Second, site selection. It is a tool for site selection and alternative routes of development. EIA has now been made mandatory under the Environmental Protection Act for 29 categories of developmental activities involving investment of rupees 50 crores and above. Historical facts are there. EIA process finds its origin from United States. In 1970, the role of EIA process was formally recognized at the Earth Summit in Rio Conference in 1992, in which the Rio declared the state that EIA shall be taken as a national instrument for proposed project which might adversely affect the environment. Till 1980s, almost all projects were implemented with little or no environmental concern in India. After Environmental Protection Act, Environmental Impact Assessment Notification came in 1994 and criteria was decided to take environmental clearance of the project from center or state government. And now I will come to the hierarchy of EIA. EIA studies are categorized on site selection, rapid or comprehensive, or regional EIA and carrying capacity based EIA. Friends, for site selection, evaluation of alternative sites, environmental economic attributes to rank the site alternative. Rapid EIA refers to one season monitoring. Comprehensive EIA refers to 3 season monitoring, that is winter, summer and post monsoon. Then if we want to go for a regional EIA, then assessment based on the analysis of assimilative capacity of environmental components, air, water and land. The scope of carrying capacity based EIA is to analyze the supportive and assimilative capacity in the region, resource availability, utilization, supply, demand, infrastructure, congestion and assimilative capacity of the residues. Means if a carrying capacity EIA is done, it is done for a very big area, and just to evaluate the carrying capacity of capacity of that particular region for the carrying of means absorbing that particular pollution load. Then in this particular EIA framework, then this is the methodology is that we have to collect the baseline data, then identification of primary, secondary and tertiary impact establishment and quantification of prediction of impacts, evaluation of impacts, environmental management plan, scientific green belt development, post-project environmental monitoring and disaster management plan based on quantitative risk assessment. So this is the actual what we were following the methodology. We are going for initial environmental examination, baseline monitoring studies, then prediction of impacts using dispersion models for air, water, land. Different models we are using for this. For air, we were using PTMTP, Qual2, the PTMTP, PAL, and now air mode is also being used. And for water dispersion model, there's a Qual2E is there. Then we are going for environmental impact assessment, environmental management plan, and on the basis of environmental management plan, we are scientifically designing the green belt and post-project monitoring system is being designed and given to the industrial people. So the environmental components, what we are considering in it are air, water, land, noise, biological and socio-economic. There are 6 environmental components we are studying in this particular EIA studies. Air quality monitoring, we are taking point, area and line source, and types of air pollutants we are considering, that is SPM, RPM, then the sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and lead. Meteorological data we are going in this, we have to collect that wind speed, wind direction, temperature, humidity, rainfall, and windrows diagram for different seasons is being plotted, and ambient air quality monitoring for SPM, NOx, SO2, and site-specific pollutants like ammonia, hydrocarbon, carbon monoxide, and prediction of impact is plotted with the help of means first mathematical modeling and plotting with the help of server. Then evaluation of impacts and environmental management plan, design network of ambient air quality monitoring. I'll just give, we are taking the 10-kilometer aerial radius from the site, what we have decided the site of that industry. And within that kilometer radius, we have to keep our ambient air quality station in windward as well as leeward side. And we will just compare with the windrows diagram. Then these are the actually just I am giving the some projects data that observation values of SPM, S2, and we have to calculate in the percentile of different up to 95% percentile value we have to calculate like that at each location. And these are the actually photographs of the this high volume sampler and respirable dust sampler. Air quality monitoring has to be done in that particular area, and this is the sample windrows diagram. In this, you can see this from northeast to southwest direction winds were blowing. Air quality modeling will be done for point, area, and line sources. I'll tell you what are the point, area, and line sources. For dispersion models, what we are using is ISCST3, PTMTP, PAL, or right now people are using air mode, and model output from by surfer. Then air quality monitoring parameters. As I told you in previous slides, this is the stack monitoring photographs. We have in some cases where industry is already there, they are going for an expansion of that particular industry. We have to go for this stack monitoring. Stack monitoring, we have to go for stack gas sampling to be defined by method of collection. And these are the procedures of taking the diameter. As per the diameter of the stack, we have to go for a number of points at which we have to take the samples. Then general emission standards as per the MOEF norms. We have to follow absorbing media for calculation of this analysis of SO2 and NOx is, you can see these are the absorbing medias, and dispersion models for point, area and line. If point sources is there, then emission factor, stack height, stack gas temperature, stack gas velocity, diameter, and east and north coordinate dispersion coefficient has to be calculated. And for area source source height, east and north coordinates, volume of source, dispersion parameters, and line source are basically vehicular sources. So their source strength, source height, number of lanes, and vehicle size, dispersion parameters we will take. The point sources I was telling, these are the chimneys, what we are seeing in the industries. We are taking at them as a point source. And area source, just like a hydrocarbon terminals, what we are seeing in the outskirts of any city, they have the terminals where petroleum storage is there. It is termed as area source. Then line source is a vehicular movement. We are taking a line source. Then meteorological data, what we are collecting: wind direction, wind speed, Pascal stability class, mixing height, ambient air temperature, atmospheric pressure. If this mixing height is not available with us, we cannot calculate it, then we'll go to Indian Meteorological Department to get this particular data. Then this is the Gaussian plume dispersion model. On the basis of this particular equation, we used to do the modeling studies. And details of emission from DG set. If fuel is DG set is there for the energy consumption, then we will diesel generators are there, then we will calculate accordingly. If coal burn fired furnaces are there, we will calculate in that particular context. Then micrometeorological data used for prediction of impacts. These are the micrometeorological data. We have to collect 24 hours data in flow vector, degree, wind speed, stability class, mixing height has to be collected at that particular region. And then these data will be used in the dispersion model to go for a prediction studies. This is the output of the modeling studies, hydrocarbon dispersion model for area source we have done. And this is the, actually, you can see, this is the side in the center, there is a industry is there, and then its dispersion is like that up to what distance the pollution is going. This is the prediction of NOx concentration for 24 hours. And you can see the as per the Windrose diagram, the dispersion is going in that particular direction. And this is another for SO2. So on the basis of the results for baseline data and this your predicted data is superimposed on this particular baseline data to evaluate the impact of that particular industry, proposed industry on environment, and up to what distance that particular impact is going. Just like that, air quality, noise pollution control is also being calculated to protect the person exposed to noise by using ear puff. अगर कोई industry में problem है, तो then they have to use the ear puff, or increase the distance from the source. माने अगर वो ऐसा है, तो you have to go away from that. And this noise environment, we have to collect the noise data with the noise leveling meter. And there are the norms that it should not be temporary threshold, should be 80 dB to 130 dB, and permanent threshold limit is more than if it is 150 dB. Then comes the water quality monitoring and modeling. We have to go for a different surface, surface, ground, marine, and estuarine water, and different. If it is there is a treatment plant is there, we have to go for that performance evaluation of that ETP. or if some industry is disposing their effluent in the river or something flowing body, then mathematical models like coil to WASP will have to be run for assessing the environmental impact of that particular industry on water environment. Then recycling and reuse of treated water. For water sampling also, we will take that 10-kilometer aerial radius. In that, we will identify the surface water body as well as groundwater locations has to be identified. And then we will collect the samples from that particular aerial radius, this our study area, and we will calculate the just like these are the actually photographs, previous photographs of some industrial work we have done. So we have to collect these samples from that particular area, and these are the parameters which we are considering for that. That is pH, temperature, color, turbidity, conductivity, total solids, suspended solids, and total dissolved solids. And chemical parameters, these are the list of the chemical parameters we have to calculate in that particular samples. And water quality parameters for nutrients, organic parameters, microbial parameters, and elements including heavy metals, we have to calculate. It's a very vast study, you can say. And if there is a effluent treatment plant, then we have to go for a detailed performance evaluation of that effluent treatment plant. And you can see this at the different location of the discharge location. Before the discharge of that our industrial effluent into the river, the TDS and chloride, BOD and COD is being calculated, and after the discharge of that particular industrial location, then it is evaluated and it is calculated and predicted as per with the mixing model that is called to E. So these are some output of that BOD model what we have run for one industry. Then comes land environment. Land environment, we have to go for a texture, porosity, percentage sodium, organic carbon, and characterization of hazardous waste we have to do. If it is there, then that is ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, and TCLP, that is toxicity characteristics leachate procedure. And as per Hazardous Waste Management Handling Rule 1989, there are 18 categories of hazardous waste. Now there are Schedule 1, Schedule 2, different waste are there. And depending upon the waste, the hazardous waste management secured landfill design has to be created in that devices, or we have to go for incineration, or we have to go for solidification, stabilization, detoxification, or micro or macro encapsulation. Soil parameters, when we are taking the soil land samples, we are considering physical properties of soil, bulk density, particle density, porosity. Then chemical properties, pH, electrical conductivity, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, different parameters we have to calculate. Cation exchange property has to be calculated. Other parameters, water holding capacity, organic carbon has to be calculated for that. Then comes the biological environment, then the collection of existing information on flora and fauna of that particular area, then assessment and damage of terrestrial flora and fauna, assessment likely damage on aquatic flora, just like zoo phytoplankton, weeds and fauna, that is zooplankton and benthos fishes due to discharge of industrial effluent. The prediction and change of biological stress experienced by the flora and fauna is calculated with Palmer index and Shannon-Weir index of the study area. The biological indices are being calculated for that particular area. And the last environmental component is socio-economic and health component. So when we are doing environmental impact assessment, we will go to the site and we will first see that what is the socio-economic status of that particular area right now. So we have to collect the baseline data of that particular area with respect to settlement population, male-female ratio, occupational health pattern, age, average age, distribution pattern, income of the a particular area, number of household, studies of prominent endemic diseases or mortality rate in that particular area, projection and anticipated change with respect to above parameters, assessment of place of historical, archaeological importance, aesthetic impairment, assessment of economical benefits to community and environment. Then we will calculate the different these parameters. So these are the actually indices for quality of life assessment. Isme different 13 parameters we have to calculate, and on the basis of these 13 parameters, on the basis of these equations, objective quality of life means that previous to the siting of that industry, means that establishment of industry, quality of life is assessed, and after establishment, what will be the quality of life that will be predicted. And on the basis of all these parameters, evaluation of impact is being done, and therefore different environmental components, different marks is being given as per the industrial type. Means whatever industry is there, if it is this air polluting industry, different marks are being given. If it is a water polluting industry, different marks are given. Then on the basis of that, environmental impact units is decided 1000. On the basis of that, they will we have to calculate the impact, and on the basis of all the evaluation of impact, we will give the environmental management plan. This is an environmental management plan is nothing but a delineation of environmental management plan for air, noise, water, land, biological and socio-economic environment based on identification of significant impacts and their evaluation. Scientific green belt development based on alternative factors and selection of native species. After this environmental management plan, the post-project environmental quality monitoring program to be pursued by the industry. The post-project environmental monitoring program is state PCB will evaluate in this particular way, and industry is assigned in this particular way. These are some air pollution control equipments, noise pollution control equipments, back filters, ear puff. These are this potable water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant. On the basis of requirement, every industry will take initiative to go for these plants. Hazardous waste disposal site, if it is hazardous waste is there, they have to go for a design of secured landfill. Then if solid waste is being generated, and solid waste to energy plant can be proposed in particular area. Now I'll take few at least of 3 to 4 minutes, 3 minutes to give some glimpse of what we are doing right now. If my hosts are permitting me, I'll go for that. Can I give 1 or 2 slides about our work, what we are doing here?
Please, then you can wrap up. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
So, this is a contribution of CSI Ampri, Bhopal in this particular area, waste to wealth, what we are doing. And this we are doing work on fly ash, basically bulk utilization of fly ash for development of cement-free concrete, and we have got 3 US patent granted on that. And on the basis of our expertise, we have demonstrated this particular technology in AIMS Bhopal in 2017, and we have transferred this technology to industries, one JSTL Raigad and JMR Vidisha. This is actually some fly ash 70 sadak cement se zyada majboot we have done. And second what we are doing here now is development of red mud based synthetic shielding aggregates, and using that synthetic shielding aggregate with 100% utilization of red mud for that, and we have developed radiation shielding concrete which can be used for nuclear installations. And these are the future R&D work what we are doing for ISRO and Indian Railways and for this Indian national highways for road applications and for bulletproof geopolymer concrete for bunkers. So we are working on that. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thanks, Dr. Sood.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mudgal. You know, as we started off with your presentation, we were pretty confident, and by the end of it, we would be more knowledgeable and more intellect in this area of environment. When the way you expressed about air quality, water quality, and also the solid waste management aspects, these are certain basics which sometimes in the course of our professional lives, we don't bypass them, but we grow older, more experienced, but the basics somewhere get lost. And I think this presentation will trigger those very right learnings in all professionals who are who are linked with us, almost 430 odd, and that's what the feedback we were getting. While you were making the presentation, we were getting live feedback from our participants who also had questions, because I'm sure they were very relevant. They are very relevant questions, some very basic questions. But as I said, in the process of your professional career, you tend to, it fades away, the knowledge, the basic knowledge, but then that remains as the foundation, which makes you perform better in your professional life. And I think you touched upon some very, very important subjects.
Yes. I would like to just share the one citing example. You kindly give at least 1 minute. We have done one environmental impact assessment for Reliance Industries at Assam. That is Leopard Kata, Assam. I personally went to that particular site. Firstly, it was Reliance has taken that particular site and they have purchased that site. And when I went for a reconnaissance survey. The foundation stone was also laid by the then Prime Minister Dr. Narasimha Rao, and they have finalized that particular site. When I went there, मैं जब गया वहाँ, then we were doing the reconnaissance survey. Then suddenly one aircraft passed from my head. That is the Air Force aircraft. Then suddenly 5-6 aircraft went there, and after that, I inquired about that. What is that? Then they told that there is a air base here. So then I went to our team and my head of department and I was leading that particular site. I went to chief of that Chabua Air Base. And I asked them, sir, this is the probable site of that particular area, and what can it come here or something? What is the norms of that? So then he told either you have to shift or we have to shift.
Yes, I think Dr. Anil Gupta was also with you at that time, was he? Because I remember
he was not. He is doing about it.
Yeah,
but Dr. One of my friend, Dr. LP Naik was with me.
Okay.
And that time I went to that collector of that particular area. Then we have because that time Google was not there. And we have collected the topo sheet, then drawn 10-kilometer aerial radius. That within 5-kilometer aerial radius, that Chabua Air Base was coming. Then Reliance, we have given our report. Then Reliance has to go to that time. They went to Ministry of Aviation, and ultimately, sir, they had to shift that site from that particular location. And this is I'll just show you. This is the report what we have done. The new site was that rapid EIA assessment in petrochemical complex at Leopard Kata, Assam. And this was the actually July 2000 incidents was.
Wonderful.
So we have done the EIA studies for new site, and there was a loss of around crores of rupees to that particular Reliance Industries. So I am just emphasizing that the site selection, industrial siting is so much of importance. If you select a wrong site, then afterwards you cannot move from that particular location. So all the aspects has to be taken care by, and local authorities also. Right now the ministry is also very much aware of it. They are giving terms of reference. They are going for some public hearing also after EIA studies. So previously it was not there, but right now a lot of measures are being taken. But industry has to take care of these all things so as to avoid these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we are already getting some questions, and I'm sure people
Yeah.
would like to know more about this particular assessment of yours back in 2000. And once we take the question answers, I think we're going to point those questions towards you, sir. Thank you so much again, Dr. Manish Mudgal. Thank you for the very detailed and very expressive presentation. Quickly over to Dr. T.L. Thanulingam, the Deputy Chief Controller of Explosives, PISO Allahabad. Allahabad has a very special place in my heart, sir. So I'm glad that you're there, Dr. Thanulingam. Dr. Thanulingam is presently looking after the work of Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization as Deputy CCE, based at Prayagraj, Allahabad. He has expertise in handling instruments such as TG, DTA, DSC for studying thermal sensitivity of high energy materials such as pyrotechnic mixtures, explosives, propellants, etc. Prior to joining PISO, Dr. Thanulingam worked as lecturer in chemistry in Regional Institute of Education, NCRT, Bhopal. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Thanulingam will be talking about explosive safety management law in India. Over to you, Dr. Thanulingam. Thank you so much for joining. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhi. Am I audible?
You're audible.
I'm using this platform to thank my seniors, those who referred my name to NIDM and FTIKI. Also, I could thank the organizer for the great opportunity to deliver my talk.
Thank you. So can you be a little more loud? A little more louder. The voice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's start at, okay, I'm sharing that.
Yes.
Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you are.
Okay. If, before going, actually, you have given the topic now, explosive safety management law. There actually, I just want to insist that our PISO, Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization, the role function. There actually, you can see the website there, piso.gov.in. There you will get every act and rules of our department administered by our department. There before going to the topic, I will just brief about our PISO, Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization, the subordinate office of Ministry of Commerce and Industry, under Department of Promotion of Industry and International Trade. Our head office at Nagpur, having 5 circle office, 18 sub-circle office, and our testing station and Pyros Research and Development Center, Flora. There you can see our organizational setup, head office, under that FRDC, Pyros Research and Development Center, Flora, and Department of Testing Station at Nagpur, 5 circle offices. East Circle Kolkata, West Circle Mumbai, South Circle Chennai, North Circle Faridabad, Central Circle Agra. So under this, 23 other offices are there. So now, before regarding our PISO is concerned, with an overall objective to ensure safety and security of public and prospective from fire and explosion, the organization PISO as a statutory authority to entrusted with the responsibility under Explosive Act 1884, Petroleum Act 1934, Inflammable Substance Act 1952, the Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization, formerly known as Department of Explosive, since its inception on 9/9/1898, has been serving the nation as a nodal agency for regulating safety of hazardous substances such as explosives, compressed gases, and petroleum. This organization has earned the rare distinction as an institution of excellence in matters related to safety in manufacturing, refining, storage, transportation, handling, and use of hazardous substances for over a century, precisely 122 years ago. The vision which has inspired the organization for the last 123 years. It is a reminder that at its foundation, it was inspired by the mission of safety for people and for the country. So now, our main role, not the statutory role of and function of PISO, the application of the following act is done by PISO as its statutory function. Explosive Act 1884, Petroleum Act 1934, and Inflammable Substance Act 1952, and there are few rules framed under Explosive Act. Explosive Rule 2008 deals with manufacture, possession, sale, use, transport, and export of explosives. Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, Dr. We can hear you.
Listen,
Yeah, you need to move a bit closer to the mic.
hello.
Yes. Dr. Thamilingam, you need to move closer to the
Am I visible now?
Yes, you are visible and audible, but a bit closer to the mic.
Okay. See, this actually our PISO, but under that PISO Explosive Rule 2008 framed to deal with manufacture, possession, sale, use, transport, import, and export of explosives, including fireworks. Okay. Then for under that gas cylinder rule, the gas cylinder 2016 deals with approval of design and manufacture of cylinders, valves, and LPG regulators, import and export of cylinders, filling and storage of cylinders. Like that, the third one is statics and mobile pressure vessel, Untitled Rule 2016. It deals with manufacture, import, and of pressure vessel and
Dr. Thamilingam, you need to share your presentation. We are not sharing your screen as well. We cannot see your presentation.
Hello?
We cannot see your presentation.
Okay, 1 minute. What should I do? This one, no?
Yeah, now it is visible.
So far you are not seeing that screen, no?
Yeah, now it is visible.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you can again I will repeat it. Okay. Role and function of PISO. Under that, our website it covers every rules and act and rules in the PISO.gov.in. So now PISO, PISO and Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization as subordinate office of Ministry of Commerce and Industry under DPIIT, and our head office at Nagpur. This head office set up, head office at Nagpur, and every circle level, the east circle at Kolkata, west circle at Mumbai, south circle Chennai, north circle Faridabad, central circle Agra. Under that, sub circles are there to deal with public. Our brief history of our PISO, overall objective to ensure safety and security of public and property from fire and explosion. The organization PISO as a statutory authority entrusted with the responsibility under Explosive Act 1884 and Petroleum Act 1934, Inflammable Substance Act 1952. The Petroleum and Explosive Organization, formerly known as Department of Explosives, since its inception on 9/9/1898, has been serving the nation as a nodal agency for regulating safety of hazardous substances such as explosives, compressed gases, and petroleum. So the organization earned rare distinction as an institution of excellence in matters related to safety, manufacture, refining, storage, transportation, handling, and use of hazardous substances for over a century, precisely to be 120 years ago. And we are serving this nation and people for safety. So our CISO administering Explosive Act 1884, Petroleum Act 1934, Inflammable Substance Act 1952. So under that Explosive Act, the Explosive Rule 2008 framed for deals with manufacture, possession, sale, use, transport, import, and export of explosives, including fireworks. Under Explosive Act again, Gas Cylinder Rule framed Gas Cylinder Rule 2016, recently amended, dealt with approval of design and manufacture of cylinders, valves, and LPG regulators, import and export of cylinders, filling and storage of cylinders, CNG, and distribution stations. So in the for static and mobile pressure vessels, Rule 2015, it deals with design, approval of design, manufacture of import and pressure vessels, storage and export of compressed gas filled with pressure vessel, auto LPG, LNG distribution stations. Then Ammonium Nitrate Rule derived under Explosive Act, Ammonium Nitrate Rule 2012, deals with import, export, production, storage, transport, and use and processing of ammonium nitrate. Notification for acetylene generation also, Administrative Department. Under Petroleum Act 1934 and the Inflammable Substance Act 1952, Petroleum Rule 2002 were framed. Petroleum deal with the import, refining, blending, transport, storage, and retail distribution of petroleum. Calcium Carbide Rule 1987 dealt with calcium carbide. Then the rule that last time the film made by nitrocellulose that controlled by Cinematography Film Rule 1948. Inflammable Substance Act include acetone, calcium phosphide, ethanol, ethyl alcohol, methyl alcohol, and the petrol rule that also covered by CISO. So now, before at least we should know that the importance of explosives, so that why we got it under Act. The explosive is nothing but rapidly releasing the large amount of energy, and engineers take the advantage of this energy and associated shock and pressure to do work. Explosive can be used for constructive work as well as destructive work. Different people may use for other purpose. For commercial purpose, the engineers will be using for rock blasting. The same explosive can be used for as a propellant. Using the property, chemical compound that produce large volume of high temperature gas at controlled predetermined rate. The same explosive in a controlled rate, you can use it as a pyrotechnic for the entertainment. It reacts more slowly, producing light, color, smoke, heat, noise, and motion. These are during Deepavali season, we may be using this pyrotechnic. So in all these cases, the basic thing is chemical reaction. Involved are electron transfer or oxidation reduction that are designed to function in the absence of, very important thing, absence of external oxygen. So explosive again, it's a solid or liquid mixed with one another, which are in metastable state, capable of undergoing a rapid chemical reaction without the participation of external reactants such as atmospheric oxygen. So this explosive to handle in they brought it under Explosive Act. constructive purpose. You can see in explosion circuit. I just want to show the picture just to see explosion is nothing but sudden release of energy, sudden release of gas, both energy and gases happening released simultaneously, and the effect of that on surrounding is nothing but explosion. That disturbing this surrounding. So this harmful to be done safely for constructive purpose. So we brought it under Explosive Act. So now in India, we are classifying explosive in eight classes. Class 1 gunpowder, class 2 nitrate mixture, class 3 nitro compound, class 4 chlorate mixture, class 5 fulminate classes, aluminum, class 6 ammunition classes, class 7 fireworks, class 8 liquid oxygen explosive. So this under explosive rule 2008, if anyone want to deal with explosive manufacture or explosive use, store, possession, use, or sales, they are supposed to go for licensing. So here actually there are only one for manufacture, but this licensing authority with respect to the quantity, licensing authority from district magistrate to chief controller level, that the licensing authority change. This actually LD5 fireworks also come under this LD5. So just I want to show the picture instead of going to deal with the rules and regulations. I just want to show the picture only. They are actually open cast. They are using the harmful one in a safer way. The explosive are packed in proper way and it's used in open cast mining. Emulsion cartridges are made that chemicals are made in such a way so that emulsion cartridges, the detonators in such cases are used in oil exploration. So these are very harmful things, but for the development of our country, it is also very essential. So during British period, they brought it explosive from UK to India. For that, they framed this kind of act in 1884. So that now last 122 years ago period, we were in looking at the safety of this Explosive Act. Under the Explosive Act, again, ammonium nitrate rule 2012 frame. There are actually 5 types of licenses this department is issuing: P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, meant for manufacture and sale, sealed door, packing and storage of ammonium nitrate, then storage of ammonium nitrate, transport of ammonium nitrate, import and export of ammonium nitrate. There, we were instructed how to store, how to transport in a safer way, so that it can be used in commercial purpose for any industry or any development. So these are ammonium nitrate produced and packages in again with under the Explosive Act 1884, the gas cylinder rule also. The gas cylinder rule again with LPG in houses or in industry, some non other type of gases. If they want to use it in, they are supposed to store in cylinder. So the under gas cylinder rule, storage of cylinder given in Form F, filling and storage of cylinder license in C and F under gas cylinder rule 2016, and CNG dispensing station license in Form G, import and export of cylinders covered under Form B, approval of design and fabrication for cylinder, CNG, compressed natural gas, liquefied natural gas, oxygen, LPG, and valves and regulators are approved by CISO. Issuance of cylinder filling permission, approval of cylinder testing season, also covered under CISO. So you can see a few pictures: CNG dispensing station, cylinder storage area, cylinder manufacturing area, valve, regulators, cylinder testing station, cylinder filling and storage, all covered under gas cylinder rule 2016. Again, in the case of gas cylinder, uh, from 500 ml to 1000 liter capacity covered under gas cylinder rule 2016. Above 1000 liters, it come under bulk. So that for that we are supposed to go for pressure vessels. In that case, SMBV covered under static and mobile pressure vessel. Storage of compressed gas in bulk LS1. Then transport of bulk LS2. Then approval design dealt by ISO. Approval for that for any repair anything. Regassing of station is approved by ISO. For everything, we are approving competent persons. Those who are mechanical people, the approval for that also. ISO is approving competent person. From this picture, you can see that this is a static pressure vessel. This is a mobile pressure vessel, a mobile tanker. This is cotton sphere. This is used for LPG. Mounted vessel. Very safe and this requires very less safety distance. Pictorially, you can see how earlier 30 meters required for this kind of vessel, but here 15 meters. Then reduce the safety distance by mounted vessel. So the fabrication unit, you can see, then LPG, LPG station, then LPG tanker degassing station, liquefied natural gas station. These are all latest development. Again, our PSO is administering Petroleum Act. Under Petroleum Act, Petroleum Rules 2002 is their transportation of petroleum under license institute, retail outlet, our petrol pump, retail outlet, and bulk storage, petroleum installation under Form 15 for non-bulk, and refueler for aircraft, voucher for heavy machines, approval for flame explosion through electrical equipment, after by PSO, then approval of petroleum product and crude pipeline, application for petroleum tank and tankers, safety fittings by PSO, issued under Petroleum Rule 2002 by PSO. So you can see the petroleum pipeline, the petroleum transport by pipeline, then the dispensing by dispenser, electrical charging station, then petroleum depot installation, then petroleum voucher, which very recently they introduced this thing for heavy machine fueling. So in addition to this, you can see our other function. Function as one of the statutory authority under manufacture, storage, and import of hazardous chemical rule 1989. An approval of CNG cross-country pipeline is given by PSO as MSI rule 1989. Function as member of central, state, and district crisis group. Functioning as chairperson, member of various technical national committee, Bureau of Indian Standards, Oil Industrial Safety Directorate, and Storage and Transport of Explosive Committee, etc. in related matters. Render technical advice to port, airport, defense, Ministry of Surface, Transport, Shipping, Railway, wherever required. So, in addition to that, technical investigation of accidents involving petroleum, explosive, fireworks, gas cylinder, pressure vessel, and report thereon. Examination of disposal of deteriorated, unserviceable explosives, commercial explosives, including those faced by police. This also the or Assam routine work. Now, let us think for the High Court, as per the Honorable Supreme Court of India, also has banned the use of lithium, mercury, arsenic, strontium, chromate, barium, lead in the manufacture of fireworks. So, these are also given license for manufacture of green crackers to various fireworks factories which were developed by the green crackers is the latest development. Other initiatives by PISO now, PISO is issuing license, actually the paperless licensing system is being adopted by PISO. Self-online renewal of various licenses, monitoring and ensuring of adequate production of medical oxygen in food and gas farms through PISO approved oxygen manufacturing premises during COVID-19 pandemic. The safety warriors have become Corona warriors. Now, what it means now, we were issuing license for manufacture of oxygen. The same thing, that oxygen is medical oxygen is very essential for COVID people. Again, our roles are Corona warriors role. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Sud.
Thank you, Dr. Tharalingam.
Yeah.
I think we all understand, I think, by the end of your presentation, how important, I think there is some, I'm sorry, there is some discussion, how important PISO and role of PISO is in as a regulator in the country. And very interesting that you shared that, it does not only engage with the industries, but it affects the life of every common man. And PISO for the longest time, I think it has its own cadre, and I've had the opportunity of talking and discussing with Mr. Jhala, Mr. Meena, yourself, and the challenges are immense. I mean, from a regulator point of view, I think the sort of challenges you face and sort of you're always in discussion, in always in the right place where the discussions are about overall industrial safety, and like OISD, like PNJRB. To me, I personally feel PISO also has a very important role, and I think you guys are only doing justice to what is required. And thank you so much for that very detailed presentation, which was very simply put, and I think it was very well understood also. And I can't even imagine the number of questions we've got and number of queries that people have. That means that all the over 400 participants who are here, the 3 presentations they've had till now have been really very intriguing, and they have triggered the right note in them, and they want to know more. The request for presentation slides is coming from almost everyone, and I want to assure everyone who's present on this call, who are attending the 3 days of this OTP, will get not only an e-certificate but a copy of the approved presentations of the speakers, because there are certain information which may not be very useful to the participants, which have been shared during the presentation, but as a record, we will request the speakers to share the version which they can share further, which we can further share with the participants, so that they can refer to those slides even later. Thank you so much, Dr. Tharalingam, for your time. And we'll take up questions right after this very, very important presentation. Dr. Ashish Mittal, namaskar, sir. Thank you. Good to have you.
Yeah.
And, Dr. Ashish Mittal, working on occupational health regulations. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mittal is the CEO of Occupational Health and Safety Management Consultancy Service. We've had the good fortune of having him earlier also in our OTP 1 and OTP 2, because the subject which he covers and the way he covers, I think it was very well appreciated and acknowledged by all the participants. And we thought that this is a very important subject, where you come, you also from your perspective, from a private sector perspective, from a training perspective, how this is important, and this would reflect in Dr. Ashish Mittal's presentation. So without, with due apologies, Dr. Mittal, for the delay. It's got a little stretched, the training program, but I'm sure the participants are as enthusiastic as they were at the beginning of this session today. without any further ado, I would request you to please uh, um, put your screen and begin your presentation.
Thank you, Rubab. Thank you for this opportunity. Again, I am with you. Uh, many things which have been covered today are basically related to occupational health. So all those exposures we have been talking about, and particularly about the Factories Act, which Dr. Langovan has already taken up. So how much time I have practically, so I can do that quickly. Rubab, you're on mute.
You have your good 25 minutes and 25-30 minutes, so that
Sure.
we
Thank
take
you.
more and more questions. A lot of questions covered, just sort of skipped. But please make your point the way you always do, and we'll take up the questions as soon as you end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So my topic for today is occupational health regulations. I'll try not to go very detailed into regulations, but I will go with the intent of these regulations, right? So we know that why these regulations have been there, and what was the intent of the legislature once they were putting on these regulations. So we'll go ahead with the just look at this picture, and if you can compare like the cost of making a shirt in India, Bangladesh, or Pakistan versus making the cost in USA. So with the same kind of material, with the same kind of cloth, in India it will take around $3.72, and in US it is about $13.22. So where is the difference? The material cost and everything, if you compare, will be almost same. But the main difference is if you see the labor cost, right? So it is not directly the payments or to the labor which is reflected here, but that goes into safety of these workers, right? Health and safety of these workers. So if you view that almost maybe if not more than $5 in each of the product is being kept for the safety, so which otherwise can reflect like this in our own scenario. So if we see this picture, this was in 2013 in Bangladesh, Dhaka. There was a factory collapse, and more than 1,200 people died in that collapse. This was a garment factory, and it was being operated in a place which was not fit to for the habitation. So there it was being run, and because of the difference in the cost which we see, we can have this kind of things which are happening around us. We can just remember like last few months, and there are so many industrial accidents which has happened in India itself, let apart the overall world. So occupational health is basically as per the definition of health, it is not merely the absence of disease, but it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And if we see that this picture shows the healthy lungs, and this is the diseased lung due to occupational disease. And if we all remember in Bhopal gas what has happened, so this is how we have to look into. So the study of health, in fact, disease is part of interaction of man and his environment. So every disease has some causation, and we have to look into the environment of that person where he is living. Say, for example, we are talking about pollution, we are talking about environmental health, we are talking about occupational health, we are talking about where he lives, like if it is a crowded place, chances of TB will be more. So that kind of all things are there. So we have to look into this kind of interaction between the environment and the human body. So human body is, if we see, is a unique machine with its own checks and balances. It reacts to internal and external environments, The key to man's health lies largely in his environment, and to study the disease is really the study of the man and his environment. For example, if we right now, if we judge ourselves, we had breakfast in the morning, so digestion is going inside the body, but we don't know how it is being done. What is the process is being run? We are listening to each other, so you are seeing the slides also. So you are processing this all the information in your brain, and you are simultaneously maybe like doing so many other activities. So basically, you don't need to any, you don't have any switch which makes you like run this machine. So it's not like a light which can be put on and off. So this is how we are, and we react uniquely to our environment, which can be internal environment, which is a harmonious function of each and every component, tissue, organ system of the body. So like digestion is being happening, you are producing the urine, you are producing excreta, you are visualizing, so all those things are going inside. And the external environment is basically our home or domestic environment, the way we live, or our lifestyle, which we call lifestyle diseases. Then is the environment at the workplace, so occupational environment. We spend around 8 to 10 hours in our occupational environment. So whatever is there in the environment in our workplace, that is going to impact our body. And then is the community environment, which is socio-economic environment. Like as of now, if we see Corona, and then we have a social or economic things which are going happening around us, which are making us more of stressful, and all those things are. So all these environments which are external to our body are impacting our health. This is just to see how we are. Sorry. This is the health sickness spectrum. Mostly we are in unrecognized sickness state of like if you do your blood test, you may recognize that you have high cholesterol, or you may have a little here and there your body functions. So if you recognize this, this is unrecognized sickness. So everybody is below this spectrum, this line, which is like we need to have, like we are saying, this wellness programs and all those things. So we need freedom from sickness, right? So that is the first part where we want to go from unrecognized sickness. And if we ignore this unrecognized sickness symptoms, or maybe if we don't go for your annual medical examinations or whatever we do, you can go towards mild sickness. You will have some symptoms of that disease, and then maybe you'll end up with severe sickness because of that loss of function and other things, and ultimately that can happen. So this is like we as a occupational health physicians, or as a general public health physicians, or as consultant physicians, we need that everybody should be above this spectrum. So freedom from sickness is which we opt for. So regular screening and other things which we opt for is just to look into, and then we can jump over this line. And then is better health. If you have freedom from sickness, if you have good nutrition, if you have exercising, so you will end up with better health. Then towards positive health, so you are in a state of positive health always. So that is the aim for whatever we are doing as a physicians. So this is how just to recognize that how disease can happen to anybody. So we are in an environment, and there are agents for disease, and we are the host. Human body is the host. So if this whole triad is very congenial, then the disease can happen. Because, like for example, dengue can happen if there is a mosquito that is an agent, and if our body is immunocompromised, or even for COVID agent is there, then environment is congenial, because we are in touch with somebody who has already infected with COVID. So, or maybe the temperature, because now the mosquito breeding is there, and then in winters or very high summers, a mosquito breeding won't be there. So that environment is congenial for this agent, and then this agent is required to give us the disease. So the best we can do is over here, we can't change the environment. We can't change outside environment like overall, but we can improve that. But then if we prevent this interaction between the agent and host, we can prevent the disease. For example, in dengue, we have so many things like you prevent the bleeding of the agent. So just cut down on this agent, or you develop a defense around yourself, like you apply mosquito nets, you have full body clothing so that mosquitoes don't bite you. So many things are there. We all know that this is how to prevent this disease. uh, we take this to occupational scenario. So there is a media, means which process is going on inside the industry. There is a source, maybe a chemical, maybe high noise, maybe heat, maybe anything which is there in the working environment, and there is a worker. So if that whole triad is there, there is going to be occupational sickness to this worker. So again, we have to prevent this sickness by just cutting this source and the interaction between the source and the workers, starting from anything which I will deal in my coming slides, which is hierarchy of control. So just for simple example, that if there is a gas leakage over there, and if worker is wearing a proper appropriate mask or the respirator, then he can be protected from the illness. So that is how we go for this kind of thing. So this occupational health, which the topic is, this is not new. Although we are talking very late about this in our whole of scenario, but as early as 4th of century BC, Hippocrates noted rat toxicity in mining people. And in 1st century AD, a Roman scholar, Pliny, he has the toxicity of zinc and sulfur and devised face mask made from the animal bladder. So he wanted to protect those workers, and he has made an animal, like animal urinary bladder, and he devised into a face mask to protect these workers. So it was like 1st century AD. And the main origin came, which we recognize as like the written things came up in 1556 by a German scholar Agricola. In his book, the De Metallica described the diseases of miners and prescribed preventive measures. So this is not new subject. Almost more than 300 years back, we already had, rather 400 years back, we have people who were recognizing these occupational diseases, and they were trying to prevent those workers to get sick. So again, like 300 years back, Bernardo Ramazzini, who is known as the father of industrial medicine, published his book, De Morbis Artificum Diatriba, The Disease of Workmen. And this is voluminous. It's a very huge 2-volume book. And he asserted that occupational diseases should be studied in the work environment rather than in hospital wards. So he encouraged the doctors to go to the industries or where the work is being done and study the environment of those workers, and then recognize the correlation between the exposure and the disease. And rather than sitting in the hospital and looking for like just to look for if somebody is coming with like recurrent cough and we are treating symptomatically, rather than we should look into the exposure assessment and then how he can be prevented from getting this disease. So the legislation about this started coming in as early as 1788. So in USA, the Chimney Sweepers Act came in 1788, because these chimney sweepers, they used to get, because this is carbon inside, and they used to get the urinary bladder cancers. And then this act was passed to prevent this urinary cancers in those chimney sweepers. So it was particularly to chimney sweepers. And then Britain has its Factories Act in the beginning of 1833. Our Factories Act in 1948 is just the replication of this Britain's Factory Act, which we are still like without much amendments, we are using that. And in US, workers' compensation law came in 1980. 1911. So almost 100 years back, more than 100 years back, compensation laws came. The whole theory goes behind about this is like in if we see in India, so we have Workmen Compensation Act came before the Factories Act 1948. So the intent behind this was like in workmen's compensation means if you are having an injury or a disease due to your work, so the employer will compensate you for that disability which has caused to you. See, this law came just, I mean, much before that Factories Act. The intent was that during the work, if I give you a disease, I will compensate you for that. So it was very rampant that many people will get sick and they will get compensation, right? The intent was later on the Factories Act came in 1948. The intent was more towards prevention so that you don't get sick, prevention of human health, and the environment, to take care of the environment. So the intent of legislation changed from the, it was like compensation and then to prevention, and then now it is more of welfare, which is again like if you see that this ESI Act came in 1948. This is kind of welfare act which came. So it was simultaneous. So now we say that prevent the diseases or injuries at the workplace, and we provide some social security through ESI Act, which is like a medical help to the workers. So this is how this whole scenario started developing, and then we have later on the Mines Act in 1952, Dock Workers Act in 1986. And then we all know that in Bhopal Gas 1948, which the Environmental Protection Act came in 1986, right? So basically, this is every act has some component of protection of workers or the protection of the workplace environment, so that they are not injured or they are not they don't get disease, right? So overall, if we see the world scenario, occupational diseases kill 6 times as many people, but accidents attract greater attention. Diseases means which are like if you have chronic lung diseases, anything like pneumoconiosis due to your workplace environment, or you get some asbestosis, silicosis, all those things, or maybe occupational cancers. So it is 6 times more than the accidents, but accidents attract greater attention because occupational diseases are not, we can't diagnose them very easily, and then even if diagnosed, then we don't have any solutions to them. So it is much more mortality because of occupational diseases. Of the estimated 2.34 million annual work-related deaths, the vast majority, about 2.02 million, are due to work-related diseases. This represents a daily average of 5,500 deaths due to occupational diseases, not due to occupational injuries or occupational like accidents, right? So because of diseases, 5,500 deaths are daily, and ILO estimates that 160 million cases of non-fatal work-related diseases occur annually. So this is how big the burden of occupational diseases is. And we know that lakhs of people are employed in conditions that be ill health or are unsafe. Occupational, so this is it. We know that in occupational scenario, at the workplace, we have all those exposures of physical, chemical, biological, ergonomics, psychosocial, and accidental causes of occupational diseases and injuries. And we have a risk assessment for their exposure. We have time weighted average values, threshold limit values, short-term exposure limits, permissible exposure limits. So all those things are there with us, where we can correlate that how the disease part of occupational exposure happens. So just look at this picture. I'll quickly go through these pictures. So if somebody working in police like this, and they have this kind of exposure during their work, or maybe like this, the fireman has exposed to fire and other toxic substances over there. These are the rescue workers during the disasters. So all those people have their own, because of their occupation, because of their work, they are getting so much of exposure to all those hazards. And if somebody is working as a fireman for throughout his life, and he has been engaged in fire extinguishing day and night and day out, so imagine how much exposed he is to so many things, right? We all know that this is war, how people are being injured and killed, and they can get diseases, all this kind of thing. People are working in small medium enterprises, so exposed to so many other workplace hazards. So just will indicate few of the things. This is silicotic patient, lungs are just collapsed. This is ergonomic problems in the government sectors, right? And then this is nasal perforation in chrome plating. This is contracture of eyelid because of alkali spilled in the eye. This is a wrist drop. The person has wrist drop, so he will not be able to straight this wrist throughout his life because of lead toxicity. So all these things are happening around us. We can see around us these people who are going inside the sewer lines to clean them. We have this silicotic patients with this kind of lung presentation. So this is normal lung, and this is whole collapsed lung, right? So these people working maybe very within 6 months, they can get disease like this, or it may take up to 20 years, 30 years, 40 years to get this kind of presentation of these people. So we have child labor issues, rag picking, right? Working in home-based industries, right? Workshops. We have female population who are working in the agriculture. They are working at home-based industries. Even the formal industries. This is a foundry where female workers are being employed. This is the Khina factory where this mehendi is being made, and this is some garment factory, right? So all these people have unsafe conditions, and we see that unsafe working conditions are rampant around the globe. 40 to 50% of the world population are at work-related risk, right? So people who are working, out of that, 40 to 50% people are exposed to these all these hazards, right? So these are few figures which are not very representative. Say, for example, India and many Asian countries don't give any data towards this whole compilation of ILO, right? So, but the calculations are that 3% of the global burden of diseases because of occupational diseases, and there are economic calculations that 2 to 14% of GNP loss is because of occupational diseases. So only access to the occupational health services is for 5 to 10% in developing countries and 20 to 50% in developed countries. Still, developed countries are also not able to provide the 100% occupational health service to its working population, right? So this is the crux is that occupational diseases are only preventable. I'm giving all this picture because the regulations which are there with us, whether Factories Act, whether other acts, so how to go ahead with those legal parts and what we have on the reality. So if we see this, the occupational risks, which we never considered as a risk in our calculations. So if we see high blood pressure, the overall in globe, if this is the diseases caused by the high blood pressure, and if we see that this is the diabetes, right? So this is diabetes, and this is blood pressure, and this is occupational diseases, right? So this occupational diseases burden comes almost in first 10 categories of the maximum impact of which are like causing the illness overall, right? So even this high total cholesterol, which is like we are all suffering from, like high cholesterol, or maybe the impact of that high cholesterol, the overall occupational disease burden is much more than the high total cholesterol, right? And this is some figures which are like way back in 1999. So pesticide poisoning, injuries, diseases, cancers. So this is compilation of occupational exposures versus what they cause, like noise-induced hearing loss. So it's much more than what we think of. Musculoskeletal, like back pains or other pains, are like, so we can compare from this that how much we are dealing with, right? So we have some international agencies like ILO. They are not very. These are, they form some guidelines. If you ratify those guidelines or conventions, then you have to follow those conventions. Otherwise, you can refer to them to make your own national policies or national laws. WHO has some things which are being replicated in our own lawmaking. International Agency for Research in Cancer. So if somebody is saying that okay, benzene is carcinogenic, so we have to take that once we are developing our own laws. Chemical Safety International Program for Chemical Safety, IPCS, or whatever is being provided by these agencies, we can take some help from them, and then we can develop our own guidelines or the laws. In USA, there is a particular department called Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, which is the prime body for looking into occupational health and safety. In United Kingdom, the responsibility is with HSC, Health and Safety Executive. In Australia, it is WorkSafe Australia. In Malaysia, Department of Occupational Safety and Health. But in India, like we have Ministry of Labor or Factory Inspectorate, through which we imply this occupational health. So occupational health in India is not a prerogative of health ministry, but it is with Ministry of Labor. And India has not ratified the ILO Convention 155, which is about occupational health and safety, but we have ratified these five of the ratification conventions of ILO, which are bonding to us, like maximum weight convention. So how much weight a person can pick during his work, right? And radiation protection, benzene convention. So all those things are there, but still the major convention of 155 we have not ratified yet. So we know India is land of diversity. So we have so much of population of around 520 million workers, and less than 10% of them are in organized sector, 60% unorganized, and 30% don't have regular jobs. So this is the scenario. And if we are looking for the occupational health of these people, so as per Factories Act, it is only applicable to the factories which are registered as factories. So rest of the population is without any umbrella legislation which can cover them for occupational health. And 60% or 30%, so 90% of the population is out of the purview of this occupational legislations. So we know that major sectors are there. So I'll skip these things. So this is the employment-wise. I'll skip this also because we know that the distribution of India is about this going on. So the issues are this: basically it's a large unorganized workforce, women and elderly workers. We have child labor, we have migrant workers, contract workers, hazardous working conditions, poor socioeconomic conditions, and poor access to occupational health as far like healthcare services. And the most of the new jobs being created in the formal sectors are actually informal, as workers do not have access to employment benefits or social security. So they again go beyond the purview of these legislations. So these are few factors. So just I will go again few of the data. So indicating that this is a much more burden in our India which we have to look into, right? So we have women workers as a worker participation rate of women is 25%. So all these things are there for women workers. Scheduling of work hours, sexual harassment at workplace, leave policy, transportation, like maternity leave, and all those things are there. Transportation is an issue, health and wellness programs, daycare for their children's, right? So all those things are issue as we talk about occupational health. And these are the occupational health legislations in India. We have a constitutional provisions which I will just go through, and total of 16 of which legislations regarding occupational health, right? These are not occupational health legislations as such, but part of occupational health is being covered by these legislations, right? So Mines Act will have something which is like asking the employer to do such and such things so that the occupational diseases can be prevented or occupational accidents can be prevented. So these 16 laws as of now has been codified into one occupational health and safety and working conditions code, which I will come later on. I think I'm taking much time. I'll skip few of the things which we all know. But so Factories Act, we have many of the things which already has been dealt by Dr. Ilangovan. So we have constitutional articles like Article 14, 15, 21, Article 17, 23, 24. We can read all these, and these are towards like safe working conditions. They prohibit children's employment. They Article 41 is right to work, right? So Article 42 is just and human conditions of work and maternity relief. So all these provisions are there. So occupational health is basically science and art of preventing disease and injury and prolonging life and promoting health and efficiency through anticipation. We anticipate this disease can happen, this kind of employment. We need to protect, prevent, promote, and rehabilitate those people who are working in these conditions. So that is occupational health. So I'll just skip this. How the regulations are formed. We look for the scientific methods. We try to have the balance between the economic cost and reasonable when compared with the probable benefits. So, for example, if we need to do the medical examination of somebody who is being exposed and like at what interval it to be done, and then we have a cost benefit analysis that if we do X-ray every 3 years, so we can recognize the disease early, we can prevent further deterioration. So all those things we can look into. So this is how the legislations are being formed, and human rights burden are reasonable when compared with the probable benefits. So we have to consider while framing these legislations as human rights also being taken care. So this I'll skip. So we make the concerned ministry drafts a bill, present it, and once it is passed from all the both the houses and sent to president, then it becomes act. So all these this welfare, this preventive and proactive things are there in our laws, which are there, and Factories Act elaborately covered by Dr. Ilangovan. Only thing is I will like to highlight over here is that there are 3 schedules. Schedule 1 which gives the hazardous process. Schedule 2 gives the exposure limits, like threshold limit values for the chemicals. There are around 120 of them in the list. And Schedule 3 gives the list of notifiable diseases. 29 diseases are notifiable in the Factories Act, right? And then there are other provisions which guide us towards how we go ahead. The provision is that in occupational health, the Factories Act is regarding occupational health centers. So if there are hazardous process in any factory is occurring under the definition of hazardous process, if that factory is carrying out a hazardous process or as such is a hazardous industry, so factory up to 50 workers should employ one doctor on retainership, so they can make an arrangement that somebody will be visiting their premises at regular basis, and then they will do the medical examination in prescribed forms at prescribed duration, like every 6 months or a year. So people, and then workers from 51 to 200, there should be occupational health center room with 15 square meter area, part-time factory medical officer should be there, and more than 200 workers, one full-time medical officer should be there. So there are further, variations, but we can go through these variations, go through the law part, the detailed law part in the. But as a what is the role of these occupational health services is basically preventive, curative, emergency, training of the stakeholders, networking, recording and reporting of the diseases or injuries, rehabilitation, medical surveillance, coordination with the safety department. So all this is being provided by the law, that all these things has to be done by the factory or the medical officer that is being employed by that factory. So we have medical surveillance programs, which is mandatory examination. So every year we have to do the annual medical examination of the workers in hazardous processes or hazardous industries. There are pre-placement periodic medical examinations, periodic medical examination specific. So, for example, somebody who has a disease like he has TB and he has to be engaged in a process where dust is much. So I need to do the specific examination of the lungs, so that if there is already a compromised lung function, then he should not be put into that dusty environment again. Post-injury, post-illness, return to work examinations, and it's a pre-employment examinations. So all those things are there, which are prescribed by the law, and there are some specific things which has to be followed. Say, for example, in canteen workers, we have to do such medical examinations. In people who are engaged in dusty environment, X-ray should be done every 3 years, which is given by the law. So there are many other things given to the workers also, like right to safety, right to be informed, right to choose, right to be heard. So if there is any grievances of the worker, the management has to be hearing those grievances. There should be some mechanism like safety committee or all those things. Safety officer has to be there if there are more than 1,000 employees in a factory. So right to seek redressal and right to education and training for their whatever work they are doing. And there are some obligations also for the workers under these laws, that no worker in a factory should willfully interfere or misuse any appliances or conveniences for other workers, right? He should not negate with the safety, whatever has been told to him to do like this, put some PPE, something, so he has to follow those rules of the factory. Shall willfully do anything likely to endanger himself or others, or shall willfully neglect to use appliances provided. So, like safety guards, safety PPEs, all those things he has to follow. We have seen this for last few months after this Corona lockdown. So there are total, I think this is last month's data. So we have total of industrial accidents which are 125 total in number in India, right? And total industrial deaths in last few years has been India is maximum, which we are indicating. So there are these sources are to be looked upon, but they are not very comprehensive resources. So we can look that, and this is we have to prevent whatever is in the, like Dr. Langovan has elaborated, that the provisions are for the risk control. So if there are risks are controlled, the health outcomes will be much as we want. Otherwise, if we are not controlling the risk at the start, then diseases or the injuries will be much higher. The number volume will be much higher. So this is a hierarchy of control. Is basically we eliminate the hazardous process or eliminate the hazardous substances. For example, like we have replaced the benzene with toluene or xylene because benzene is carcinogenic. We have replaced it in even petrol also. I mean, lowered the benzene levels. We have taken out the lead from the petrol, so that is kind of elimination. Substitute by the lesser toxic material. Engineering controls are like sound control that you can be protected from noise-induced hearing loss. Administrative controls are like the shift rotations or the rest period. For example, you are working very high temperature conditions. So we have to make a plan that if you are working at 30-degree temperature, so you can work for 8 hours. If it is 32-degree temperature, you will work for 4 hours only. If it is 34, then you should work for 2 hours only. So these kind of administrative controls should be there. So depending upon the exposure, we make something which is congenial to the workers, right? Then is behavior-based safety programs. So you train them, you retrain them so that they are more effectively using the safety during the work, right? And then least desirable is PPE. Anything which is given to the people to wear, like face mask or gloves or earplugs. So sometimes they don't wear it. So now we are talking about the future is basically universal health coverage for all, which is the agenda for the WHO, which is like we are moving ahead with that. So in that we have a universal coverage for workers, right? So universal health coverage for overall population and then specifically for workers is basically we need to reach the people who are left out of whatever legislation has provided or whatever the resources has provided us. For example, as I was talking about the Factories Act. So Factories Act is specifically for the factories. But say, for example, if somebody working on the street vendor, so he is left out of all these occupational health services. So how to include that? So who will cover that cost? So we look into cost. This is the height part of it. I mean, we have to expand that. If they are not covered under some social security schemes, we have to cover them. Or then is people who are not being covered, we have to cover them, and we have to. This is like who is covered. So this is in the breadth, and depth is basically the interventions. So we need some more services. For example, we need audiometry to be done on number of workers who are using the high noise instruments or high noise area. So if as of now we are just giving this service to 5% of population, we need to expand it to all people who are being exposed to such kind of noise, right? So this is how we are looking into the future, and legal, whether it is like legal part or it is a voluntary or guidelines part. So I think we are striving towards this kind of coverage for entire working population. So I will skip this. Prevention is always better than cure. So we should be looking for that. So basically, the crux is basically we are focusing on like this photograph is about mopping the floor once the tap is on. So we continuously, if we don't stop the exposure, and the person with disease will come into the population which are looking for the cure of the disease rather than preventing the disease. So we have to close this tap. We have to prevent the diseases from occurring, right? So this is just how the safety is in our cases. Just a glimpse of that. I'll not go much, but we have to think out of box, which is like this. If you are traveling long and you want to take nap, so your neck should not be hurt. So you have made some provisions, or like this, something which is very cost effective to the populations, which can be done at their own, and they can be prevented further from all those such kind of small out of box thinking should be there. So overall is basically the changes from which we're talking about the animal bladder mask to a very sophisticated respirator or chemical canister mask. The changes from compensation legislation to preventive welfare legislation, from disease cure to prevention of diseases, from accidents to safe practices. But we have to go from worker to being a human being. So we have to consider them rather than it was like compensation was for worker. But if we think them human beings, then we will be more proactive to safeguard their health and safety. So now, as I told you that this is the code which has come, which was passed in the last monsoon session, the Occupational Safety and Working Conditions Code. So 2020, there are some key changes which has happened in this, and all those 16 legislations which I've shown you previously, Factories Act, ESI Act, all those will be covered over in this. So there are total 4 codes, and total of 39 labor laws has been codified into 4 codes. One is occupational safety, health and working conditions. One is social security code, and one is industrial relationship code, and one is wages code. So we will look into how these things will be taken care once we move ahead with this, because still the rules has to be framed in these codes. So how it will fit into our environment, how it will engage the employer, employees, and all those things, we will definitely have to look into. Like for example, there is a provision in this code that employee can be penalized with up to rupees 10,000 for violating any provisions of this code. So this is a new kind of, so employee, if like in the beginning it was the obligation that he should follow the Factories Act, but now if he don't follow something, he can be fined. So all those things we have to look into. But this is how the changes has been occurring in our conditions. So there are many conditions which have been now changed in this law, but we can go through, I think, once we hand over this, because already it's 2 o'clock, and I should hand over the platform to the organizers. So this is how it is. So winning doesn't always mean being first. Winning means you are doing better than what you have done before. So in 300 years, we are on the platform where we have started recognizing that occupational health is something which we need to take care for our working population. Right. Thank you so much for the time given and for your patience. I think I have taken much time, but I couldn't help it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashish Mittal. And I've had the privilege of listening to you previously also, but this time you made it more towards the law and policy, and which was a very welcome step from your side. Thank you so much for elaborating more from an occupational health and safety side, and also talking in depth about the occupational disease, because that is where the numbers lie. I
Yeah.
think the more we ignore talking about that subject, the more we are delaying an overall development in the country. Because I think the numbers are crazy. The number of occupational disease which causes impact on direct occupational health and hence the productivity. I think the root cause needs to be dealt with, which you rightly said. 6 times more people are affected, from compared to accidents because of disease, occupational disease, which are non-accident induced. I was also reading somewhere that annually there are almost 4 lakh people who get affected in our country. And I think you mentioned about the ILO's global figures also.
Yeah.
So we have a major chunk. Yes, the population density is very high, but we are a country which is going through a phase where the world is looking at us, and I think um, there are certain issues which were discussed even at the ministerial level. And because of COVID, there are industries which want to set up and which want to set up their base in India. And I think I want to also open the discussions with Dr. Ilangovan and Dr. Thanulingam and Dr. Mudgal also on the call right now. We are informed that a lot of companies which wanted to establish or shift their base to India. And then the 7th May LG Chem accident happened, and there were certain criminal actions which were taken against the company. And there was a lobby which was strongly saying that, we must decriminalize the acts and laws in India to attract more attention. But there is a counter argument which says if there is so much of criminalization, so much of criminal component in the law currently, and you want us to decriminalize, and such accidents are happening, so what will happen if you decriminalize? Because one of the very glaring, and I keep sharing this in all discussions, glaring outcomes of the report which was prepared, investigative report of LG Chem accident, that the safety staff was contractual in that facility. So if that is the priority given to safety in the industry, I can't. We have to be as a chamber, as an industry body, be pro-industry, but you can't decriminalize and expect industries to do to do whatever they wish to, and compromise on safety, because safety not only is for their own betterment, but it is for the people which are involved in that industry, and that those are human lives. So one must be very, there has to be a balance in politics. And I think you've raised very pertinent points and some very, and I think with the feedback is very clear from the participants also. They're very happy that, we could have this session. We almost have 400 people still connected with us. So I'll quickly take some questions, and I'm very thankful to Dr. Ilangovan for answering series of questions which were targeted to him in the question and answer window. I really appreciate your effort, Dr. Ilangovan. I'm sure, because I was also wondering that the number of questions and the number of feedback we have from the audience, it is not practically possible to take up all of them. But you taking the effort of answering those questions is really appreciated. Can we have, I hope we have Dr. Mudgal and Dr. Thanulingam and Dr. Ilangovan with us. If we can have a word of confirmation from your side, sir, maybe if you could.
Yeah, I am there.
Yes, Mr.
Please.
Mudgal. Thank you, Mr. Thanulingam. Thank you. And because I see Mr. Ilangovan, Dr. Ilangovan, answering those questions, so I'm sure he's also with us here. One of the things, and I'm taking the questions now straight away. Mr. Vinod B, he has series of questions, very relevant also. Whether mental stress and depression due to job loss in the COVID-19 pandemic situation can be a contributing factor for occupational diseases. And would anyone like to speak on that? Due to COVID-19, the stress and depression which the workforce is going through. And the panel, anyone from the panel would like to comment on that? It could not be an answer; it could be an opinion also.
Should I?
Yeah, please, Dr. Mishra.
Yeah. So basically, see, mental health. This is called psychosocial component of the occupational health, right? So mental health is one part of that. That includes, say, for example, interpersonal relationship, how you are with your subordinates, how you are with your bosses. So that can give you much more like stress. I have few videos which we can share with you. So see, basically, this is a coming area, the recognition of mental health at workplace, right? Many people do complain of because of all these interpersonal relationships, or maybe they are not fit to work in those kind of conditions, right? So they have those mental stresses upon them. So with the COVID, with the loss of jobs, with the loss of incomes, not incomes, many places there is a reduced pay right now. So all these people, and this really further compromises on the safety, because once you are under mental stress, once you go to your workplace, many accidents can happen, and you are much more exposed. So this is like occupational diseases definitely will be much higher in population which are not mentally very congenial to that environment, because definitely, if I ask you as a boss to wear a mask, for example, or give me the other things, right? But then, because I don't have a very good relationship with you, I will just avoid that, doing that what you have told me. So this kind of all things are we have seen, and that this is happening. This is reality, and this do happen.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Thanulingam, I think there's a question for you. Plastic explosives like RDX falls in which category? Your mic is on mute, Dr.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's on mute again. You will have to press it once.
Okay. See, this some explosives are not comes under defense. So that we never classify it under commercial explosive. Again, plastic explosive, I can say nitro based explosive. Class 3 comes under class 3 category in as per commercial, but it should be used in defense purpose only, not for commercial purpose. Plastic explosive. Yeah.
All right. Vinod B asks again, I think there are a series of questions. At what extent the PPE, the personal protective equipment, can reduce the occupational disease among factory workers in highly polluted industrial premises, example, metal casting and carbon powder industry? How important is the relevance of PPE?
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So see, basically, if you know, have seen that risk control hierarchy of control, PPs are in the last, like, and because see, for example, if I have a mask which I have to fit to Rubab with the beard, and which used to be fit on me, so it will be a different. So the PPE, for example, in high pollution, maybe if you can just say that it is dust or maybe metal fumes or something like that. First is you have to be very appropriate with the PPE. General mask won't do in such kind of conditions in metal casting or some places, right? So very specific, you need to be having a chemical canister mask or continuous respirators or all those things. And then you have to do the fit testing for that, right? And then it has to be 100% compliance, means you have given, but the employee is not wearing that. Your duty was to give the PPE to your employee, but then if he is not wearing that, continuously you can monitor that. Maybe you have CCTV, you can penalize those workers. But there are many conditions. For example, if you give somebody in a very humid environment any PPE to give to wear, so if the conditions are not very good, you don't have very air conditioning area, so people will not wear it. So then it will be very least effective PPs are, and then highly in that case you can do some engineering control so that your exposure levels are within the limits.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we have Dr. Langovan. The video is on now. Thank you so much, Dr. Langovan, for answering a series of questions which were there in the question and answer window. I think that really made my job easier, and I'm sure that in that way we could answer more questions than we can practically take up. One question which comes from Vipul: how many LPG cylinders can be stored without a license? I don't know why he's asking this, but that's
This I can answer.
Yeah.
as per gas cylinder rule, up to 100 kg exempted from licensing.
Okay.
100
And what
kg.
is okay, thank you. And what is the storage capacity of chlorine without license?
That are less than 5 numbers of cylinder. In the case of chlorine, number of cylinders is less than 5. Capacity 9.
Okay. There's a question from Aditya Swami. Does petroleum retail outlets need to obtain factory license? What is the provision in revised labor law published on September 30th, 2020?
That Dr. Ilangovan sir can answer.
Yes, please. Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Panulingam. See, the point is this, the manufacturing process doesn't change. As I told you in my presentation, the pumping of liquid, oil or two-phase substance is a manufacturing process. Same way, now instead of 10, 20 will come. 20 people, of course, the power is used because there will be a motor to pump the liquid from the storage tank or reservoir and the underground tank. So it will be the same logic. It is basically, it's a manufacturing process. Maybe now the number of the retail outlets coming under the factory that will be less because the threshold limit has gone from 10 to 20. Other than that, as far as the definition is concerned, there is no change.
Okay, thank you. There's a question for Dr. Mudgal. Dr. Mudgal, one of the participant is asking that, you mentioned very elaborately about industrial setting and its events. Any new or any fresh law or legislation which has been passed in this respect to make sure that such cases which happened with Reliance do not happen again? There is definitely use of technology. What else is the government of India doing currently to ensure industrial siting is risk free?
Actually, thanks for good question. Nice question they have asked. Ministry of Environment Forest has given proper guidelines. If you go to the ministry site, Ministry of Environment Forest site, then they have and you just type siting of industries. They have given citing guidelines for siting of industry and siting criteria, and they have given all the each and every points they have given that up to what distance from. I have also elaborated in some of my slides that if there is a habitat of around 3 lakhs population, how much distance has to be maintained. If it is a coastal area, then that regulatory zone has to be avoided around 500 meters from that, just half a kilometer away from that. So just like what I have given the incident of that, already norms have been revised also by Government of India, Ministry of Environment Forest, and whenever some industry is likely to be established at particular location, they have to follow all the norms. And after environmental impact assessment, also there is a appraisal committee which evaluates the environmental impact assessment report. And as a consultant, whether it is a government organization or any private organization, they have to go in front of that appraisal committee, and then they have to present that case in front of that committee, and committee takes the chairmanship of very higher officials. They will take the decision that that particular site is suitable for that particular industrial application, that establishment, or they have to go for another particular site. So all the norms are available with Ministry of Environment Forest. Latest after 1986, Environmental Protection Act 1986. In 1994, the Environmental Protection and this EIA notification is there. And latest in 2012, they have given this particular guidelines for the siting of industry. So elaborately, Ministry of Environment Forest is given that they are
Thank
all the norms for that.
Thank you, Dr. Mutkul. Thank you. Dr. Ilangovan, there's another one from Parminder Sahni. Will the DG fastly initiate certification of individuals for the third-party safety audits as it used to earlier?
See, I can't give any prediction, but let me tell you clearly, we started in the year 2009. I was then the director. We started the approval of safety auditing. We have done 4 or 5 batches then. After that, the process went to accreditation. We were very seriously working on creating accreditation system for safety auditors on a national basis. And even then, after that, it was even approved by our Honorable Minister also. Years back, and the code has come. Now, if you see the code, the National Advisory Board on Occupational Safety has given powers to set standards, rules, regulations to the code, as well as to frame. Even the third-party auditing system will also be a part of the domain of the National Advisory Board. And definitely, third-party auditing system can be implemented only by creating auditors. It is not safety auditor. There is a little difference there because third-party auditing under the Act will be covering the complete code, not only safety and pollution. So definitely we need to create that a system has to be created to operationalize this third-party auditing system. And once the rules are made and then it get operationalized, then this will come into effect. Definitely things will happen in this.
Okay, thank you so much. I think, sir, the questions are too many to be, to be absorbed in one session. We would send out those questions to you, and if you get time, all of you gentlemen, you could please answer those questions. I'm really very thankful to all of you, all very distinguished speakers, eminent speakers, Dr. Ilangovan, Dr. Thanulingam, Dr. Mudgal, Dr. Mittal. I think in your presence, I think the audience, which was over 400 at one point in time, is feeling more enlightened and more educated than what they were maybe 3 hours back. So thank you so much for all your effort. I can't thank you enough for taking out time. And apologies for this session getting dragged for an hour, but I think it was so interesting and it was so intriguing for all of us. But I must thank you from the bottom of my heart for bearing with us for this extra hour. Thank you, all you 4 gentlemen. Thank you, all the participants.
So much.
Look forward to them joining us back again tomorrow. Same time, 11 o'clock. There are certain important housekeeping rules, some important information which is there on the screen. The PPTs will be shared along with e-certificates 7 to 10 days after this event is over. It ideally is made available before that. We will be giving feedback forms to everyone on the last day, that is tomorrow. Please use the same email ID login which you've used for the first 2 days, because that's how the attendance is marked here. Not a school sort of setting, but it's something we as a principal are following, that to deserve e-certificate, you need to attend all the 3 days, and it's for their own benefit. I think benefit of all the participants, all the over 400 participants who are joining us on daily basis. So on that note, thank you so much again. Have a good day ahead, and till next time tomorrow.